Okay, let's play some damn chess. Slut from China. Street whore. Come on, you goddamn slut-eyed slut from motherfucking China. You Oriental prostitute. Start the game, you Oriental whore. Start the goddamn game. Start the goddamn video, you goddamn son of a goddamn bitch. God damn it.
I think that they start to fall apart. And this is not to steal your joy nor your comfort. I understand that we as humans, we love these aphorisms, these cliches, because they chunk down into bite-sized wisdom.
There's a smelly Shelley.
You've probably heard these sayings 1,000 times. Phrases that are meant to sound deep, that offer pseudo-wisdom, that claim to be profound, but under just the tiniest bit of scrutiny, I think that they start to fall apart. And this is not to steal your joy nor your comfort. I understand that we as humans, we love these aphorisms, these cliches, because they chunk down into bite-sized wisdom nuggets. They offer simplicity in a very chaotic world. And there's some utility to that, some benefit to that. But is there more utility and more benefit when we actually interrogate these sayings and look for the truth in them? I think so. So that's what we're going to do today. I have just 5 sayings for you. Very popular phrases that supposedly offer wisdom, but I think they actually mislead. And I think we can do better. So let's start with one that bugs me the most, and it's phrased in so many different ways. Everything happens for a reason. There are no coincidences. The universe has a plan. And those are the secular versions. Of course, religion has its own way of promoting this concept. Romans 8:28 says, God works all things together for good. In Islam, you have inshallah, if God wills it. And in Hinduism, you have that karmic justice idea. This is a very comforting notion to humans, that it's not total randomness all the time, that there's something larger going on. And again, even the non-religious person often buys into this. There's some universal hand pulling strings and piecing things together. It can seemingly give suffering meaning. It can again rope in chaos into some sort of order. But the simple truth of it is that randomness does exist. Earthquakes just do happen. Things like cancer or car accidents are a reality of this life. There does not have to be any kind of God or cosmic logic behind it. In fact, if there is, it's pretty damn terrifying. And we do this. We have this urge to make the natural not natural, because if these bad things are just natural, or I should say harmful things, well, again, that can also be truly terrifying. At least if you give it over to God, sometimes God might answer a prayer or two about it. But there's a moral danger in that kind of belief, religiously or secularly. It justifies injustice. Your suffering being part of a cosmic plan means you should take it. Tragedy happening to another means there's good over here. You don't want to interrupt the butterfly effect. And even at a deep level, it can lead to this idea of apathy, of inaction. The same way that thoughts and prayers do absolutely nothing, this kind of thinking prevents real help. And it's kind of a different critique if you're talking about the God version or the cosmic version. If a God version, you've got to contend with the problem of evil and suffering, which I think utterly destroys that concept, at least of the kind of gods we think of, triomni gods. And again, if cosmic, that's even less control. You can't pray to the universe. I mean, I suppose that you could, but it's going to be as futile. It's a hard recognition to not just look in the mirror at yourself, but look at the reality of the world. But the best things that have helped advance society past the horrors of the past, not that there's not still horrors going on, is not saying, I guess it's all going to work out. There must be a greater plan. There are indeed no coincidences. It's saying, no,
Crap-ass
let's
bitch.
try to act on this. Let's control for this. Let's lessen that. And any good student of history will see that we are the masters of our fate. My favorite example when I think about this is smallpox. What if we just kept accepting that smallpox is part of the universal order? Oh, this is, the universe or God or planet Earth getting back at us for our lack of care. Oh, it's just the world correcting for imbalance of some kind. How many more unnecessary deaths of children would we have if everyone thought like this? No. Hey, there's something I don't like. There's something harmful. Let's find a way to fix it. This magical thinking, I think, removes responsibility, and that is where I see the biggest harm. Not to mention, it's just simply not true. We have no good reason to believe that it is. And of course, many have dealt with this. Camus has been on my mind a lot lately in many videos and in conversations. This is the absurdity of life. It's something to be recognized. It is insane that we are all just here and part of this human experiment, which already gives, again, a notion that someone or something is orchestrating. No, we showed up on the scene. We're all we've got. Let's do something about it. Sometimes things just suck. A rock rolls down a hill, hits someone in the head, and they die. What's the cosmic purpose? For the dead person? For the rock? For the family suffering? I'm not saying you can't find silver linings. I'm not saying that you can't look for patterns that make things feel like they mattered, like they happened for a reason. By all means, make lemonade out of lemons. But to act like someone gave you the lemons to make that lemonade is where we start to go down the wrong path. So, moving on to number 2, kind of similar but still different. Just follow your heart. Trust your gut. Now, trusting your gut, I think, actually is decent advice, but people don't think about it this deeply when they throw this kind of thing out. I heard an amazing definition of what our gut instinct is, which is just our brain's amazing pattern recognition. So if something doesn't feel right, it's not some cosmic sense of awareness. It's not God placing the discernment of the Holy Spirit in you. It's our brain going, wait, I've seen this before, this might not be good, based off real past experience, using data to inform future decisions. That's wonderful. But the more abstract concept of you have some mechanism inside you that will guide you towards what is always providential. No, you do not. But I understand why it sounds good. It sounds like some kind of emotional authenticity. It seems pure. How are you arguing against that? That's a beautiful little notion. Disney logic, if you will. And it resonates, right, with some kind of myth of an inner essence or a soul, which again, you don't have to believe in God to believe in. That there is somehow this more eternal part of you, this deeper thing, this carryover from a past life or a multiverse, whatever you have brought into your belief system. There's something inside you working for you, past your brain. Again, we just have no good reason to believe. Now, I can already feel some people clenching up. Brandon's destroying the spiritual now, not just religion. He's taking it too far. Look at these dumb, hardline materialists. I don't know if there's more. And I love awe and the sense of transcendence. I think beauty and love in music are powerful. I don't want to rob anybody of the poetry of life, but over-indexing on these ideas will rob you of the real beauty that can be had here by making these false assertions and connections that don't exist. Your heart is not always looking out for you, metaphorically speaking. This is one thing that the Bible does get right, even though it immediately contradicts itself, that the heart is deceitful above all else. The problem is like everything, it looks for a replacement. Oh, put your faith in God. And the secular person who doesn't believe in God says, no, give it back over to your heart. Follow your heart. But hearts mislead. People follow their hearts into scams and affairs and cults. That's not good. From a neuroscience perspective, emotions, which is really all we're talking about when we talk about following your heart, are evolved responses. They're not compasses of truth. How many times have you been wrong about something? How much more evidence do you need? From a philosophical point of view, Plato warns about this against passion ruling reason. You want a perfect example of passion without reason? I recently watched the little, not a documentary, but the movie about Elizabeth Holmes from Theranos. That's passion without reason. That didn't go so well. And again, the romantic in me, the literature lover, the poetry lover, I think about Romeo and Juliet, all passion, no reason, dead teenagers. What about religious conversions? That's nothing but passion, no reason, all feelings, no logic. So yeah, check your heart, check your emotions, check your feelings. Maybe they're leading you in the right way, but can you get more evidence? Can you get more sources? Can you do a little discovery? The Stoics are clear about this. Don't make emotions an enemy. That's not what we're saying. It's not that they're always bad, always untrustworthy, but they are unreliable rulers, and that's such an important distinction, such a good bit of nuance. I asked this question in the last Thinking Thursday video. What if everyone lived like you did? What would happen to the world? And here I think we can do a similar thought experiment. What if everybody followed their heart? Truly, how well do you think that experiment would go? Sometimes I think blowing things up can help us see how it can go wrong even in the small, in the detail. But let's move on to number 3. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. All I can hear is the Kelly Clarkson song, but this is so cliche. And it offers this good bit of hope, right? Oh, this thing happened to you, don't worry. It's building your character, it's toughening you up, it's providing experience for the future. And though those things can be true, they're not always true, and this kind of a framing I do think is dangerous. By the way, this is me going directly against Nietzsche. This comes from Twilight of the Idols. This suggesting that suffering always leads to resilience. It can, and maybe that's the encouragement from someone who's saying it like Nietzsche is, hey, if you're going to go through this thing anyways, you might as well find a way to make it useful. You might as well put it to work for you. Again, make that lemonade. But this is an actual mantra or belief. Ugh, I do not like it. Trauma is real, and it can weaken us. Think PTSD, think depression, think anxiety. These things are crippling. And again, I want to be clear, it can make you stronger. There's 1,000 variables, one being resources like knowledge or therapy, community, etc., that are going to dictate to what degree suffering helps or hurts us. Think about the veteran coming back from war. Yes, some come back stronger and with purpose, and some come back broken completely. When disease strikes, some people's immune system builds them up stronger. They're more resilient. Others suffer long-term disabilities. It's just not a fact of life that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. What matters is, yes, how we respond and how we get support. And those are the details that should be mantras, not to just assume that because something bad happened to you, you will become better. That's asinine. Just to throw more examples at you, think about weightlifting. Yeah, you break the muscle down and it can grow back stronger if you do the right things. You have the nutrition, you have the rest, you did the right amount of reps, you handled the right amount of weight. But too much stress, too much weight, too much pushing, not enough rest, not enough nutrition does what? It breaks it. You become injured. You actually become weaker. There's balance that needs to be understood, and there's the necessary tools for recovery that need to be understood instead of just this blind, everything works out. It's kind of like number 1. And an interesting thought experiment here is, especially as a parent, and this is often something that's thrown out when we critique the triomny God for the problems of suffering. Someone will say, okay, well, you as a parent, would you wish bad things for your kids so that they can grow stronger? It's kind of a loaded question, though. Do I wish just ultimate trauma dumped on my kids, hoping that they can fight for their life through it and maybe come out the other side? No. Do I wish for a little bit of adversity sometimes for them to overcome and gain strength and perspective? Yes, but we don't need to manufacture those things. The world is already going to do that. We need to prepare them with love and guidance and real tools and real support so that we can make the best of what will happen in this life that is not being controlled by any kind of a puppet master or any kind of universe with a plan. Again, when you put some of these ideas together, they get even worse in that direction. Oh, the universe has a plan. That plan includes suffering. That suffering will always make you stronger. Just follow your heart. Whoa, we're getting into very dangerous territory. So again, I'm not trying to remove all of it. I'm trying to add the nuance to it so that things can be useful, so that we can have the right perspectives. I just see this abused too much. I'm not saying I'm a genius or I'm some guru of wisdom and I have it all figured out. I do not. But it is clear to see when some things do not work, and it is clear to see where people get trapped in stupid pseudo-wisdom. And so with that, let's move on to number 4. Ignorance is bliss. Now, I think I've even said this once or twice on the channel, and I try to say it in context about thoughts we have during the deconstruction that, man, it would have been so much better if I just never looked into it, if I didn't read the Bible in its entirety, if I just showed up naive to church and enjoyed the community. But I don't actually think that's better. I think it's easier. And I think that that is a huge distinction to talk about here. Ignorance being blissful is a nice concept because it feels like it can give permission to not dealing with what is hard, to not being exposed to what is difficult. It's a self-protecting measure, if you will, seemingly protecting innocence and shielding from anxiety. But there's some problems with ignorance, or willful ignorance, willful blindness. You might say, okay, no one says this saying is like what one should do. No, it's usually kind of an after-the-fact excuse maker. But any kind of sheltering or willful blindness, ignorance, whatever term we want to call it here, affords the ability to make you an easy target for manipulation. Knowledge is power. The lack of knowledge is the lack of power. And a lack of power can be very dangerous. That's why so many, not all, churches discourage questioning, at least questioning too much. It's always kind of this little pseudo handoff, like, oh no, you should definitely think about that more. Oh yeah, it's good to doubt. They don't mean it, not entirely, only within the confines of they have the answers and you need to listen to them. But otherwise, they want you not thinking. Just like political powers, especially tyrannical ones. The more ignorant you can keep the population, the easier they are to control. And no, that doesn't just mean that they're off in la la land in some blissful state, not worrying about the affairs of the world. Oftentimes it leads to their own downfall. That's true in the religious example and the political example. Quoting a lot of Greeks today, but Socrates says the unexamined life is not worth living. Are you even living if you are just going on autopilot, blissfully unaware of everything about yourself and the world and the people around you? If you want a simple motto, do something better like dare to know instead of burying your head in the sand. Another word for ignorance, I think, here is denial. That's what we do to keep our bliss. We say, oh man, it can't really be as bad as they're saying. I know that I've had that pain in my back for a month now, but it's probably not a big deal. Right? These kinds of denial lead to that ignorance that leads to that sense of bliss, but again, it's just momentary unawareness of the reality that has suffering attached to it. Knowledge may hurt, but it's like that pain sensor. When you touch the stove, you want it to hurt for a second so you know to pull your hand away. If it didn't hurt and you just left it there, now you have a real problem. So yeah, knowledge hurts for a minute, but ideally, it empowers. It allows us to actually avoid more suffering. But let's close out with our last one, fitting number 5. Live every day like it's your last. So motivational, right? Like, carpe diem. You don't know if tomorrow is promised. It's this quick little pep talk against complacency, which is great. This is the closest one to being somewhat useful, but in the way it's phrased, it's not only impossible to really do, but if one did, it would be ultimately incredibly destructive. There's parts of it that are true. Again, going back to the Stoics, we have that memento mori, remember your death, because it can give an urgency to life. You don't want the opposite either. You don't want to treat every day as if it's the most boring, apathetic thing. You're going to have a billion more. Why can't we ever find the middle? Yes, be aware that the end in general terms is near, but you might have another 20 years or 40 years or 80 years in front of you, and that's just not a viable way to actually live life, like every day is your last. And maybe I'm being that guy that's taking it too literally. It's just supposed to be about the heart of the matter, and you could make that excuse for a lot of these, but the problem is that a lot of people really do take these to heart. They really do try to live off of them, or they use them as excuses for the way that they are living. And it can be tempting. Oh my goodness, I totally understand the young person in their 20s who feels like, am I ever going to be able to have a house? The entry-level jobs are going away because of AI. What's the point of college? Maybe I should just party. What else is there to do? How I empathize. But you're probably still going to be here in 10 years. And there's probably some decisions that you can make to be as wise as possible in the meantime to set yourself up for a potential of a better outcome. Throwing your hands in the air and saying, it's all going to end someday anyways, and it could be tomorrow, so you know what? I'm going to have that extra drink. I'm going to indulge myself here. I'll just gamble this money. It'll be fun. Who knows? Maybe it'll work out. These are dangerous, dangerous concepts that seem like a good idea under this essence of really living life. In that way, it's just a hedonistic trap. justifying reckless behavior. And by the way, it's not just in your 20s that this can happen. You might see it with your midlife crisis. You might see it with people that are getting older but still have a lot of life left. Sometimes I have to talk my dad off this ledge. Or the sad stories of how many men just blow up their families in their 40s in their midlife crisis because they wanted the younger wife or the expensive sports car they couldn't afford. They up and quit their commitments. And I know I'm being a little general here, but there's just 1,000 ways that this can go wrong because it can justify, again, many kinds of behavior that shouldn't be justified. Religiously, we see kind of a weird version of this where the rest of your time here on earth doesn't matter because you have an eternity waiting for you in heaven. Don't store up for yourselves treasures on earth. We see this urgency preaching from both Jesus and Paul because they both believed the world was going to end in their generation. And that life advice is terrible. Paul's out there saying to stay single, and if you're married, act like you're single and don't invest in businesses. And Jesus is saying to sell all you have. That only works if the end of the world is coming, if tomorrow really is your last day. It's a horrific way to live. So then you have the secular person who's divorced themselves from those religious concepts, and they say, on the other hand, if there is no afterlife, and this is all we get, I don't want to waste it. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. Where's the nuance? I'm not saying not to have a fun day every once in a while where you let loose, of course. And yes, don't procrastinate. It's equally dangerous. If you love that person, go tell them. If you can do that adventure, go do it. But rushing in or being careless or reckless under a justified concept of, I don't know if we'll be here tomorrow, will not work out when tomorrow comes and goes. What if instead we said, and this is what I should have done for all of them, I should have given you better versions, but what if we said, live every day like it matters? Bam! We get the same urgency, the same concept, but with caution. Just a little added middle ground. Live today in a way your future self will thank you for. The best of both worlds. Still planning for a longer life, but also recognizing that what we do today matters. In fact, let's see if we can do that here. Let's see if we can find the middle ground, and then we'll close out. So we've done it for this one. Let's go back to number 4. Ignorance is bliss. We kind of already said it, but what if we said instead that knowledge, though painful, is powerful? Ooh, I like that. Instead of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, what about what doesn't kill you can still wound you, but healing correctly can make you stronger? I get it's not as sexy, but it's way more true, and it's way more helpful. Instead of follow your heart, can we do follow your values? Values you've already thought out ahead of time and prepared in a way and seen the truth and evidence for. Again, I'm not trying to make these sound bites actually stick. I'm just trying to give you the concept behind what might be healthier. Listen to your heart, but lead with your mind. There's a prettier one for you. And that first one, that everything happens for a reason, when we know that it doesn't and life is absurd, to kind of stick with that Camus idea, we could say something like, life isn't about finding meaning, it's about making meaning. Instead of all this pseudo-wisdom that is light and bouncy, poetic, deep-sounding, and even mildly comforting, what if we talk about real wisdom more? The kind that requires complexity and discomfort and nuance and attention and investigation. Maybe you just need to ask yourself, do you want comfortable lies or uncomfortable truths? It's the whole point of the channel here. So this was just a quick deeper dive into that world, and I'd love to hear what other ones you guys have or what you think of these. That's it. Thank you so much for being here. Hopefully there's a Sunday video waiting for you as I'm filming this. I don't know if I'll have that Sunday video because I'm going out of town, but either way there will be a video in the short future, and until then, keep thinking. I wanted to personally thank my top tiers of support: my Iconiclist, Cam, Boris, Grant, GBI, Jimmy, Joe, Yes, D, Kaboga, Matthew, Perry, and Sean. My Humanist Heroes: Craig, James, Jared, Christy, and Matthew. My Atheist Advocates: Equitar, Caleb, Dakota, Dan, Drew, Jeff, Jeffrey, Jokes, Julie, Malcolm, Paul, Sparky, and Thomas, as well as all of my secular scholar patrons. And to everyone else who gives in any capacity, thank you so much.
I'm fucking you up. Yeah, I fucked up and lost my whore like a stupid You suck my motherfucking dick, bitch. Suck my fucking dick.
Hello and welcome back to Skepticus. This is your boy, Adam Abnova.
Stupid!
Today I have something a little different for you. Usually I'm picking on Christians, right? But today I wanted to go through the 7 fundamental tenets of the Satanic Temple. I got the idea to do this because I was looking at a video from a content creator called The Antibot, and she is a Satanist, and she was looking through these tenets herself. And even when I was a Christian, I always found it very interesting to look at these tenets from Satanists, because it was usually pretty surprising the extent to which these tenets are very moral. Christians love to demonize Satanists, literally and figuratively. And, of course, for many Christians, just saying Satanist sounds like the worst possible thing. But it's really interesting when you get into some of the literature around Satanism, and you can see how they are nothing like the caricature that is made of them by Christians. Now, quick disclaimer here before we get into this. I am not a Satanist. I never planned to be a Satanist. I know there are Christians who think somehow that atheism is equivalent to being a Satanist, which is ridiculous and couldn't be more wrong. But I still thought that this would be interesting to go through these tenets and kind of compare them to what we see from a moral perspective with Christianity. So let's dive into these. The first tenet is one should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason. The first thing that stands out to me with this tenet is that it says toward all creatures. Now, I don't know if there are any statistics on how many people that are Satanists are also vegans or vegetarians. But the toward all creatures thing really stands out to me because in Christianity, I believe it is overtly anti-creature. Meaning, even if you want to make the case that Christianity is about loving your fellow man, and that has a lot of problems to it, but okay, let's give them that for a second. Christianity also is very explicit about this idea that we have dominion over the animals, that we can basically do whatever the hell we want with them. So it's very interesting to me that this first tenet of the Satanist temple specifically talks about compassion and empathy toward all creatures. I have to admit, I've been wanting to be a vegan for a little bit now, and I haven't been able to bring myself to do it. I'll probably do another video on that in the future. But when I think about animal suffering, and when I think about the food industry, the cattle and livestock industries, what happens to animals, I have a hard time excusing. In fact, I don't really excuse it, although, like I said, I'm a bit of a hypocrite here because I'm not a vegan or a vegetarian. But the fact that they extend this to all creatures is very interesting to me. I also love the fact that it says in accordance with reason. Now, a critic could argue, well, then that kind of saps it of all of its energy, because when you say in accordance with reason, then it's all completely subjective. But as I have said in numerous other videos, everything about Christian morality is absolutely subjective, even though they like to bang this drum for this false idea of objective morality. So I think it's more honest here because they're just saying it outright, in accordance with reason. So yes, there's room for debate here. Yes, this is kind of squishy on the edges, but so is everyone's morality, whether they want to admit it or not. The second tenet is the struggle for justice is an ongoing and necessary pursuit that should prevail over laws and institutions. Not only do I love this tenet, but this tenet to me is so much more moral than almost anything that we ever get from.
Suck my dick, bitch.
Do you have a name, or do you prefer to be called AV?
You can call me AV or the AV Show. Woo, 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 you know it. Now let's get this debate going, bro.
Actually, I don't know it because I've never heard of you. So,
Hey, well, you're about to get to know me because you're about to get destroyed, bro. The AV...
Okay, so...
You're about to get destroyed.
Too soon to crash out.
Don't be...
You have the opportunity to have a real discussion here.
Don't mute me, don't be weak. Don't be weak. Every leftist is... Quit muting me, weak. Quit muting me. You're weak.
He actually wants me to do this so he can claim false victory. He doesn't want to have a discussion. Let me know when you're ready to put your big boy pants on, okay?
Let me know when you quit muting me.
You're not muted right now.
Okay, well, quit being scared and debate me. Quit running. He's a runner. He's a track star. He's a runner.
So, I don't know if you know this. Part of having a discussion with another human being is you can't just talk repetitively and uselessly. So are you capable of doing that?
Yeah, but part of a discussion and debate is to quit muting. Quit hiding behind the mute button, brother.
Part of a debate means that two people get to talk. And so what happens is when I get a guest in here that won't let me talk on my own live stream, that means I'm forced to mute them. I have no other choice. I have no other. Do it right now. I have no other choice but to mute you because you're not actually interested in having a debate. What you're doing is trying to make sure that I can't talk because you're terrified of what I might say. So you could have a real discussion with me, or I could just mute you the whole time. Which one do you want to do?
This is your champion. He mutes. Weak. He's weak. He mutes.
Well, you can go cry about it somewhere else. Everyone who's ever watched my show knows that you don't get muted if you know how to have a real conversation. Clearly, you don't know how to have a real conversation, and you're a waste of space, so you can go somewhere else. I'm sure there are adults waiting to get in and have a real conversation. He's gonna go tell all of his friends that he cooked me, I'm sure of it. Welcome in, Rolf.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, welcome in. How you doing?
How's it going? Good.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm sitting outside of my tool shed.
Oh shit! Well,
quite fun.
I would imagine so. Oh, Rolf, are you?
Yeah, I need.
Are you at least 18? And do you believe in God?
Oh yeah, I turned 43. Yeah, I'm old.
I feel that.
I found like a 4 centimeter.
Yeah.
I found like a 4 centimeter long hair coming out of my ear.
That's That's gonna happen with time. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah. It's panic time.
Rolf, which God do you believe in?
I don't believe in any gods.
Yeah, he's gonna be right here.
We're having a debate right now with people who do believe in God. So unfortunately, I have to.
I just want to come in here and
open him
say,
up for a dick
good
and
job. Keep it up.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's all about what do you say in is how to control the public.
Yeah, really?
That's why I see religion as being something that keep above you to make you like to keep up with the laws and doing whatever they want you to do.
I think the greatest utility of religion is mass control. That's my opinion.
Yeah, because it's difficult to control a big population, and that is what it's used for. And I look at it as, it's evil.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
In its purest form. And I think it's about time that people start waking up.
We're waking them up one at a time.
Yeah. So, but yeah, either way.
You better be glad that's how it's fixing to push up
in my tool shed here in Norway. Yeah.
Well, listen, one of my favorite places to be when I'm not online is in the garage doing something. So I hope you have fun.
Yeah, I live on a farm, so I'm like always doing some crazy projects or doing something fun with the kids. Right now, I'm just tinkering around with my new bow and arrow. It's gonna be fun.
Newborns are a lot of fun. Enjoy the baby though. Yeah, babies are the best.
Yes, they are.
All right, have a great one.
Cool. Well, I hope you have a good night.
Hey, you too. Cheers, friend.
Bye. Cheers. Bye.
W. Rolf. I love tinkering in the garage. I love it. But you guys already know me. I love working on cars and stuff. It's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Drifter, thank you for the super chat. Says I'm 44 years old, always learning and searching. I don't feel old. You're not. You're a young man. But I know I'm old because the priests don't stare at me anymore. Oh my God, that's good. Oh, that's fantastic. To be fair, though, the wandering eye of the priest is for the quite young. Herman says, as a former Sikh, and we have our own wackos. Oh, I'm a former Sikh, and we have our own wackos. But man, I cannot believe the kind of people that call into your show. It's crazy. It is crazy. I've talked to people of like Eastern religions, and they're usually not all that like crazy about the religion. They're usually pretty level-headed. But you know, Abrahamic faith is a little bit different. Tariq says, I'm watching live stream first time. It's 2 o'clock here. You are a great host on Atheist Experience. Well, thank you so much, Tariq. I appreciate that. I should be on the Atheist Experience again this weekend. I'll be hosting, so it should be a lot of fun. And last one for now from our friend Nightman. Thank you so much for the additional super chat. Says AV used to debate Parker and Dean all the time. He's a failed drama TikToker that will do anything for clout. He's a troglodyte. I believe that. He struck me as the type of guy that just wants to stir up trouble and not actually have a discussion, which is why he opens the conversation with insulting you and then trying to talk over you. That's a person that's just rage baiting. That's a legitimate rage baiter, and I'm not really here for that. Like if it's a fun rage bait, I can deal with it. But like if you just want to come up and yell and force me to yell back at you, it's not worth it. Okay. All right, we're going to get Yugi in here, and then Trove, and then Patristic. It seems like that's the order. How you doing, Yugi?
Hey, what's good, man? How you doing?
Doing good, thanks for asking. Yugi, are you at least 18, and do you believe in a god?
Yes, I am definitely at least 18, and I would say I believe in the God of what is the traditional 66 book canon Bible, yeah.
Right, so you're a Christian?
Yeah, I'm okay with that label, yeah.
Okay. And do you believe that God is all good, partially good, or you don't know?
I think he has a justification for what he does, is what I would say. You know?
Right.
I don't know if I could... Yeah, go ahead.
Right. I mean, justification aside, I don't think answers the question of whether or not he's good. Right. So,
look
like,
at this fucking
from
shit.
your point of view...
Well, yeah. Can I meet you in the middle? Like, I don't have all the justifications for all he does, so I'm gonna be humble and say I can't say in an absolute sense because I don't see what God sees.
Fair enough, right?
It's the God that I believe in. You know what I mean?
Right. So I think the problem with like the God is good claim is it kind of ends up going down like one of 2 rabbit trails. I think the first rabbit trail that Christians want to go down is that God is good because he says so. But I don't see why that is the case. Like, if God says he is good, I don't see why I'm obliged to believe that statement.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. What's the other route that you hear, though?
Well, I think the other route that I hear is like some like philosophical route. Typically, well, like if God is God, then he must be perfect. If he's perfect, then he must be good. But like I don't see how being a perfect being has anything to do with good with, because a perfect being could just decide that being evil was part of being perfect. Like he set the parameters.
Can I offer an alternative that you might have not heard? Okay, I think that God can do what we would understand as evils for a justified reason. So I'll give you like an analogy. It's not perfect, but I'll give you an analogy. So for example, to a child, we are committing something brutal. They're crying, they're freaking out when we're giving them, let's say, a vaccine, right? But there's a perfectly justifiable reason for putting them through that pain. Now the child may not fully comprehend or understand that. Again, it's not a perfect analogy, but I'm trying to illustrate that, like, I don't know if it's a historically held point, but that's kind of where I would like to take the conversation, that he could do what we would say is evil insofar as it's justified to certain people. I don't know if that...
No. So, first of all, what you're saying is probably... Obviously, we've heard this, but it's one of the better... I don't know if response is the right way. So what you're describing is something called necessary evil, right? So this is where we start to make divisions on what we mean by bad or evil. So for example, you would say like getting poked by the needle is the necessary evil. And this is where I would say that I agree with you. I think there are some things that are bad, but they're necessary. Like we need them to get to the end point. Now, that's a little bit of a concession. I mean, theoretically, if God created everything, then like the prick from the needle shouldn't have to be necessary because he should have just made you so that you couldn't get diseases. So like there's a route you could do with that, but for the sake of our discussion, like I could just grant you that there are such things as necessary evil in the way that the world is created because he created the world with free will, and because we have free will, sometimes we cause harm to others and so on and so forth, right? So, but I would be concerned with all of the examples of unnecessary badness that God causes. And I'll give you an example in Leviticus 26.
Sure. Yeah, go for it.
So God...
Can you remind me of it? Because I don't want to click away because sometimes my phone trips.
No, I got it. I'll put it on the screen. So God is warning the Israelites what's going to happen to them if they don't follow his laws exactly. And he really wants them to follow the laws. Like he's going to punish them quite harshly if they don't.
Yeah.
And part of the punishment,
Stupid.
he says, this is the punishment, you shall eat the flesh of your sons and you will eat the flesh of your daughters. So he's talking about,
I remember this,
right, in the siege, right?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna let you finish the point though before I jump in. Yeah. I don't know if that was it or...
So, I mean, I think the question we have to ask ourselves with a passage like this is whether or not that type of a punishment is necessary, and what's it necessary for?
Gotcha, okay. So here's what I would respond to that. Would you also agree that, this is part of the totality of what the Bible claims is the books of Moses, right? Like, which is from Genesis down to Deuteronomy, and that collectively it was taught to the Israelites, the Hebrews, before they crossed with Joshua. So before I make that point, I want to make sure that we agree on that or not.
Yeah, that seems to be the point, right? This is before they go into the promised land, and God is already telling them that you guys are going to screw up really bad, and when you screw up, this is what I'm going to do about it.
Okay, gotcha. And in Deuteronomy it talks about, he literally says, like, I'm going to wipe you off the face of the earth, I'm going to do all these things, all these rancid, horrible things, but so here, I'm actually really curious what you think about this, because I don't feel like a lot of people bring this up to you. So in Judges 2, when we start seeing this play out, the entire nation of Israel commits apostasy. They're worshiping other gods, they're doing whatever the heck they want to do. They completely ignore the law of Moses. But God doesn't punish them the way that he's prescribing in the Torah. Why do you think that is? Because my answer would be that those seem to be warnings and fence laws, not that they're dogmatically going to be issued the way that it's stated. Just like a law that we know now, right? There's a maximum sentence, a minimum sentence, and some things can be discretionary. That's how I read the Torah, but I'm curious what you think.
Right, so you're saying they're empty threats.
More like warnings. They could be true, but it doesn't necessitate to be the case always, right? So if you tell someone, if you don't back away, I'm going to hurt you, right? Doesn't mean that you're going to always do it. I don't think it makes it empty. It just depends on what that person does after.
Right. So the problem we have is in the Bible, God does follow through on the threat.
But why didn't he wipe out Israel in Judges 2 then?
Because obviously he wasn't serious about that particular threat. Same reason why he didn't wipe them out in Exodus 32. In Exodus 32, he threatens to do the same thing. But what we do know is that this promise does come true. We read in Lamentations during the siege of Jerusalem that this is what happened. The hands of compassionate women boiled their own children, and they became their food in the destruction of my people.
Sorry about that. Somebody waved me down. I didn't hear what you said. You mind repeating that last part? I apologize.
Yeah, it says, the hands of compassionate women have boiled their own children, and they became their food in the destruction of my people.
And where was this at? This was in Genesis, right?
This is in Lamentations.
Oh, Lamentations. Okay, I haven't gotten that far, so I wouldn't even know the context. But I don't know if, I guess like what I'm failing to see is, I don't see it as empty threats when, I don't know if you would agree that it seems as though the God of, the ancients spoke in a way that they would understand.
Right.
So if, that's, go ahead.
But what I'm saying is, the threat that I'm going to make you eat your children, that came true.
Oh, that he actually did that?
Yeah, in Lamentations, Jeremiah records how the women of Jerusalem during the siege boiled their own children and ate them.
Yeah, I would have to see how that ended up happening, but obviously, I will concede that, like, since we hold to the sovereignty of God, He's ultimately in control. He allowed that. Granted, like,
bitch.
Much later though. But I still struggle. Like, do you think that it's at different points that He will do certain things, or is it just more like you wouldn't see it as a general warning, right? You wouldn't see that.
Well, personally, I think Leviticus 26 is written like in post after the Babylonian exile, putting threats on God's mouth.
You hold like the documentarian views, is that what's called?
Yeah, and I think one of the reasons why that threat is in there is because that's what they actually experienced. And when we go to Lamentations, we read that is what they actually experienced, right? So the reality is, I think when it comes to God's threats, I think there's kind of two problems. One is sometimes they come true and they're kind of horrific. And number two is, if they don't come true, that just means God's lying. God's saying things are going to happen that aren't going to happen. And the Bible clearly says that all of God's words will come to pass.
So you don't think it's a possibility of this being some sort of offense? So like, for example, like the warning of stoning children. There's no recording of it actually happening. Or it's prescribed to kind of like be whoa, like you don't want to do that.
They're stupid.
Let me give you an example real quick.
They're stupid.
I'm gonna let
They're
you. I don't want to
stupid.
like
They're stupid machine.
in where I live in Pennsylvania, right? They really increase the penalty for not buckling your child in a car, right? It's almost like it's actually kind of absurd. But the idea is that things were so bad in PA where people were just kind of not, they were neglecting securely fastening their children, that they've upped it in order to kind of like make it clear that this will be a dire punishment if you don't follow it. You don't see that being a possibility at all?
No, I don't think so. And we do have rabbinic writings, like some of these commands that people will say, well, it's not recorded in the Bible, so it didn't happen. But like we can find it being recorded as happening in the Talmud. Like we know that the Jews were doing it, right? And I don't think it's a fair position to hold that like just because something wasn't recorded in the Bible that it never happened. I don't.
Yeah, I don't want to make an argument from silence. I'm only just kind of positing explanation, because if you're saying like, well, God said this and then He does it in this part of Scripture. But then we see, I gave you an example of God saying He's going to eliminate the Hebrews completely out of existence, but then He doesn't in Judges 2. Mm-hmm. I think that gives wiggle room at least to the idea that these laws seem to be at least discretionary. I think we can agree on that, right? Like they seem discretionary.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. Like if God is giving discretionary laws that He doesn't intend to follow through on, like He's saying, if you do this, I will do this, and then He doesn't do it, that puts God at odds with His own words, because He says in Numbers 23:19 and 1 Samuel 15:29 that God can't lie. When He says it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Yeah, I get what you mean. To an extent, I would only push back with Deuteronomy 1, where he talks about how there are judges appointed for certain parts of Israel, and there seems to be cases that need to be brought up. Some cases can be more complicated than others, and so I don't buy necessarily that the Torah was as dogmatic as like maybe we read it to be. You know what I mean? There seems to be cases. I think, and I could be wrong to give the reference, it's Deuteronomy 1, I think it's from verses 12 to 16 or 17, where he talks about different judges being appointed for different cases, and if it's too complicated, you bring it to God and God will give the judgment.
Yes, that's also in Deuteronomy. But I don't think that answers the point that I raised, which is if God is telling you that I'm going to punish you if you do something, right? If God says, I'm going to do something if you do this, and then they do it, and then He doesn't follow through, that means God said things that aren't true.
I guess going back to the original point then, I would say that He has a justification, whether explicitly told or not. We would have to kind of speculate, depending on the text, though. You know what I mean?
But if God says things that are untrue, that means He's contradicting Himself, because He says elsewhere that He can't say things that are untrue.
Again, if there's no justification, I'll agree with that. Like, if it's arbitrary and we have no reason and we can't, like, safely deduce any possible reason, sure. I'm down to grant that, but I I think if the laws are discretionary, I'm okay with saying it's, there could be justifications for why he doesn't, let's say, punish certain people and others
Well, the discretionary nature of the laws is irrelevant to what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, if God tells you he's going to do something, and then he doesn't do it, that makes him a liar. 1 Samuel 15:29 says, "The glory of Israel will not deceive or change his mind, for he is not immortal that he should change his mind." This is a God that does the things that he says he's going to do. Not a single word of God is going to fall to the ground.
Yeah, you said this isn't. Yeah, but I guess. Oh, yeah, this is for Samuel 15. This is in reference to his declaration of getting vengeance against the Amalekites, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not a fundamentalist, so I'm not gonna read it that way. You know what I mean?
So the words just don't mean what they mean?
Not always. Yeah, it depends on the context.
So when it says that God doesn't change his mind, it just doesn't mean that.
So I think that is applicable to his covenants or his declarations, but not for the law. Obviously not. I'm okay with granting that the law is discretionary, but his covenant promises no.
Okay, so then God's just not all-knowing then.
Well, what does covenants have to do with being all-knowing?
Covenants has nothing to do with all-knowingness. All-knowingness is negated once you say that God can change his mind. All-knowing beings can't change their mind.
That's the part that maybe I'm not understanding. So when you make you don't think that. Yeah, you lost me, brother. Hold on. Let me go back. I'm saying when it comes to the law, that's discretionary. When it comes to covenants, it's unchanging. Now, what was your response again? Maybe I missed it.
All-knowing beings cannot change their minds.
Oh, you think he's limited because he's got these attributes? He can't discretionarily change punishments? You don't think God can do that?
No, what I'm saying is, an all-knowing being cannot change their mind. If an all-knowing being...
once they say something, they have to follow through.
Yeah, if an all-knowing being says they're going to do something and they don't do it, then either they're lying or they're not all-knowing.
Or you don't think that there's a possibility of different ways of speaking to elicit some sort of reaction?
It would still be a lie.
Well, you don't think that people can speak in a certain way, like locutionary and illocutionary?
It would still be a lie.
I guess we just... So I get where you're coming from, though.
That's just a definition of a lie, though. If somebody says, I'm going to do something, and then they don't do it, that's called a lie.
Without a justification, I agree.
No, justification is irrelevant. If you don't do it, it is a lie.
Okay. So, if I say... I know, I get what you're saying, but I don't think you're not hearing me out at all.
I do, I just disagree. It doesn't matter if you have a reason for it.
I know, but I get you, but here's, maybe I'm failing to understand, because if someone says hey, I'm on my way to work, you find out they don't go to work, you can't accuse them of a liar unless they give you a justification why they didn't make it. You can't just say, well, you're a liar, you didn't go to work.
Are they all knowing?
Well, I don't understand what that would make a difference.
Because if you're an all-knowing being and you're on your way to work and you know that you won't make it there, then saying I'm going to work is useless. You know you're not going to work, you're going somewhere else.
But if you're a perfect being and you're trying to relate to fallible creatures, you gotta communicate in a way that they would understand. So I guess I get what you're saying. You're saying because he's all knowing, that therefore necessitates that he can only speak a very specific way, right?
Because he's all knowing, whenever he says anything about the future, he can't be wrong about it. An all knowing being can't be wrong about what happens in the future.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, that I guess this is where we disagree. You're saying he has to speak a certain way to illustrate.
I didn't say that.
Well, that's what. Then explain it to me, because I'm not getting what you're trying to imply here.
I will try again. Can an all-knowing being wrong? Can an all-knowing being be wrong when it says things are going to happen in the future?
So you don't. I guess in the biblical narrative, it really does depend. You know what I mean? If we're talking about the Bible right now, right? You clearly see things change depending on what happens, Joel 2, Jonah.
God can be wrong?
It's not that he can't be wrong, it's that things are conditional.
I didn't ask about conditionals.
Yeah, I guess we're just talking two different things.
God knows how conditionals work out. Conditionals don't matter.
But if you're trying to relate to people or have a relationship with them, you could, sure, like, let's say God could just say, I'm not going to really destroy you. I'm going to destroy you, but not really. So don't even worry about it. How does that, like, how is that grounds for a good relationship, though? You know what I'm saying?
Grounds for a good relationship is that you literally don't just destroy people because they won't worship you. That'd be the first point. The second point is that you can just tell them the truth. You can say, if you disobey me, this is what will happen, and make sure that the thing that you warned them about actually happens. Like, my father had, like, one rule. The rule in our house is you knew if you acted up, this was the punishment for it, and he didn't count the 3. He didn't give you warnings. If he caught you doing something, you got the punishment for it right away, right?
I get you.
That's what God could have got. God could have said, here are the rules. You disobey, you receive the punishments. I don't count the 3, I don't give warnings, and I don't change my mind.
Yeah, that's what he did in Genesis, but, like, if your dad told you, you know, I know everything that you're going to do, exactly how you're going to do it, and I'm just going to punish you, like, you don't think that that's a little strange of a relationship to have, though?
No. Being honest? No, I think being honest is a good relationship.
No, I agree about being honest, but I also would disagree with that method of being, like, if God just said, I know absolutely everything you're going to do. I'm not going to give you any chance to show genuine, like, let's say, repentance or genuine sorrow about what you did. I'm just going to tell you how to feel. Like, it doesn't work that way, you know?
I didn't say any of that. I have no idea where you got any of that information from. I didn't say anything like that.
Well, that would be the conclusion if you're saying, to you, honesty would be God. Yeah, go ahead.
What I'm saying is, God should be honest about what he's going to do. That's it. That's all I'm saying. If God just says, if you act up, these are the ramifications, and then he gave you the ramifications, that would be God being honest. If God says, if you act up, here are the ramifications, and then he doesn't do it, that's God being dishonest.
Or there's a justification where God is speaking in a way that they would understand.
Justification doesn't mean anything. It's irrelevant. God can talk in a way that human beings understand. He created the mind of humans. He created speech. He's the one that decided how good human understanding would be.
Yeah, especially at that time, yeah. Especially the way that covenants were done, how things seem to be hyperbolic. I don't really see how that's an issue. I don't know. Maybe we're just not seeing it, yeah.
It's not hyperbolic. Those are justifications you have to put on the text because you don't like what it says.
Well, but no, I'm not putting anything on the text. He just read that he was going to do, like again, in Deuteronomy, the final covenant before they cross, he says he's going to wipe them out completely. They completely disregard the Torah and Judges too, but he doesn't. So
give me the
like
passage.
you said, yeah, well, you don't mind if I switch over to my phone real quick so I can show you what I'm talking about?
Go ahead.
Yeah, give me 1 second. I'm going to go to Deuteronomy and then I'll give you the one in Judges. Hold on.
By the way, I don't think Judges says what he thinks it is.
Part of my argument is in Deuteronomy 28, you know, the blessings and the curses.
Yeah, I'm very
in the verses of disobeying, he talks about, you know, completely destroying them. Let me give you the exact verse. Hold on.
It talks about bringing them to destruction down in 63. I don't think
20 and 21.
All right, what's the verse?
Deuteronomy 28, verse 20 and 21.
28 and 21?
No, 20 and 21. 20 and 21. Yeah. Like chapter 28, verse 20 and 21. Yeah.
It says, the Lord will send upon you disaster, panic, and frustration in everything you attempt to do until you are destroyed and quickly perish on account of the evil of your deeds with which you have forsaken me. The Lord will make the pestilence cling to you until it has consumed you off the land that you are entering to possess. So you're adding to the text that every single one of them is going to die. Because if you keep reading...
That's what it says.
It doesn't say that. If you keep reading in chapter 30, that's clearly not the case. Because in chapter 30, he tells them what's going to happen with who's left over.
In chapter 30?
Yeah.
So which one's true then, in your view?
They're both true. You can bring disaster on a people group without destroying every last one of them. He's talking to a corporate people group. You can bring disaster on a corporate people group without every single individual person in that group dying.
Ho!
Okay, so then let's go to Judges 2, and I'm going to show you that it says that not a single person was good. Let me get it real quick.
I agree, yeah, not a single person probably was good.
You understand, though, that the punishments that were dealt out were discretionary, though. But let me get the verse.
Now buck up and move that king right here. I do.
Going to be 10, 11, and 12. I don't have any indication that this is just a few people. We can disagree, but I don't know. Let me see what you think.
Yeah. So this is referring to the generation of people that were in the desert. This is Joshua giving the account. He says that whole generation was gathered to their ancestors, and another generation grew up after them. Because remember, they were cursed to wander for 40 years. A generation who did not know the Lord or the work that he had done for Israel. Then the Israelites did what was evil in the sight of the Lord and served the Baals, and they abandoned the Lord, the God of their ancestors, who had brought them out of the land of Egypt. They followed other gods from among the gods of the people who were around them and bowed down to them, and they provoked the Lord to anger, and they abandoned the Lord and served Baal and the Astartes. So the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel. He gave them over to plunderers who plundered them. He sold them into the power of the enemies all around, so that they could no longer withstand their enemies. Whenever they marched out, the hand of the Lord was against them to bring misfortune, as the Lord warned them and sworn to them, and they were in great distress. Then the Lord raised up judges.
God damn it.
Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like,
Where's the problem?
He did. Say again.
God did. In nowhere in here did God threaten to destroy every last one of them.
No, I'm saying in the totality of the narrative, this is prior. So Deuteronomy was before they crossed.
Deuteronomy doesn't say that they're going to be completely annihilated. I'm looking for the verse that says God is going to wipe out every single one of them.
Okay, but I'm saying, okay. Let me be very clear. If the punishments are necessary, like they need to be done in order for God to not be a liar, he would have had to kill every single one of Israel, according to Judges 2, right?
No.
Because they all served the other gods.
No.
He would not have to?
No.
So you're agreeing with me?
No, I'm not agreeing with you. I'm saying
doesn't make you a liar, right?
No, I'm saying that you're putting stuff in the text that isn't there. Show me the passage that says God is going to kill every single Israelite for their disobedience. I'm still waiting for it. That's what you were supposed to show me 2 verses ago.
I'm only illustrating that he doesn't necessarily kill people, let's say, for committing idolatry. It's discretionary. That's all I'm trying to posit. That's it.
Literally nothing you have said so far demonstrates the validity of your point up to now. What we're talking about is whether or not God has to or should follow through on his threats. And so far, he seems to follow through on his threats, except for Exodus 32. In Exodus 32, he threatens to wipe out the Israelites and then changes his mind according to the text, which draws an adorable contradiction, one of my favorite contradictions in the Bible, because he can't change his mind because he's all-knowing.
Yeah, we just disagree on what that means. That's all I'm saying.
Oh my God.
No, we don't disagree on what it means. The text itself says he changed his mind.
No, I know that, but in what way that is, you know, again, I talked about this earlier, locutionary, illocutionary. I don't think it's a problem.
Doesn't actually get you anywhere. The question is, did he change his mind or not?
Insofar as his relations to humans, sure. That's not a problem.
Okay, so God can change his mind?
In his relationships with us, sure.
Because again, can God change his mind?
Can you really explain what you mean by that?
Can an all-knowing being change its mind?
In terms of his relationships with us, I don't have a problem.
In terms of what it thinks. That's what it means to change your mind. He didn't say change the Israelites. It says God changed his mind.
Yeah, okay. I don't have a problem with the way that it's worded there. What's wrong with that?
Can an all-knowing being change their mind?
Clearly, that's what the text shows, yeah.
Clearly not. Because if you're all-knowing, you can't change what you think about the future.
Okay. But what's... I don't get where you're getting at with this. Are you saying that that's a contradiction, so he has to either... maybe I'm too dumb to understand. So, okay, let me try
what I'm pointing out is that your book is got a contradiction on whether or not God does indeed change his mind, because in multiple places it says God does not change his mind, and then in Exodus 32, and according to you, God does change his mind, which means something's got to go. Either God does change his mind and he's not all-knowing, or God doesn't change his mind and these passages are fake, false.
Yeah, I think we've already, like, as Christians, kind of hashed this out, that it's just a way of him speaking to us.
I don't think you have, no.
I mean, we've been doing it since antiquity, bro. Like, I don't know what else to tell you.
So then God says things that are untrue.
And so far as we can understand them, even if I grant that, like, let's say you... okay, I get what you're saying.
What can you not understand about God won't change his mind or will change his mind? I don't understand why our understanding has anything to do with God being able to change his mind. You understand the passage? Do you understand this passage when it says God changed his mind?
Yeah, of course I do.
Okay, if it said God if it said God did not change his mind, could you understand that?
Of course.
Okay, so our understanding is more than capable of understanding if something can or cannot change its mind. That's not beyond us. We can do calculus. We've been doing calculus since, like, the Akkadian age. So we can understand if an all-knowing entity can change its mind. That's not something we need divine revelation for. The reality is the Bible just said things that are contradictory.
No, I just don't think that Moses... I believe it was Moses that wrote it, but let me use the argument that it's you said it's post-Babylonian authors, you said?
Well, no matter when you think it was written, it certainly isn't written by Moses. That's
gotcha. So, what I'm saying, I don't buy that Moses is trying to be a theologian and, like, hash out how exactly that mechanically works.
Did God dictate this to Moses?
That argument's underwhelming.
Did Moses write down what God wanted him to?
Of course, yeah, in a way that they would understand, though.
Again, we have already addressed it. Human beings are capable of understanding the word not and do.
Yeah, but Exodus isn't a theologically dense book. It's a narrative.
It doesn't say anything about theology. If it says something that's untrue, it's untrue. In Exodus 32, when it says the Lord changed his mind, if God is not capable of changing his mind, then you could just say God doesn't change his mind. And it says that, right? We have two clear texts. One says God does not change his mind, and one that says God did change his mind. It's a simple contradiction. Our understanding is more than capable of grasping this.
Yeah, I think I get your view. I just think that, you know what I mean, like, we're just that's our crossroads, because I don't think I'll just read the text.
Honestly, our crossroad?
I'm not like a fundamentalist, dude.
Yeah.
I'll just read the text. There, it says what it says, and that's it. Like, there's theology.
Right, yeah. One of us is honest and one of us not. That's fine.
That's fine. You can call me dishonest, but, you know what I mean? There's years of theology behind this, dude.
I know. That's why I'm pointing it out.
Yeah, I'm not a fundamentalist to me.
I never said you were. Either the text is true or it's not.
I don't read it like that. Like, I don't read the Torah and say... Oh, go ahead.
So let's actually finish the initial discussion, which is, do you think it's good for God to have his children cannibalized for their sins?
Whoa. Okay, let me make it clear. Do I think that whole thing is good? No, and even I have my struggles with understanding why God would put us through such punishments, but granted, like, my initial argument was if he has the justification for it. The question is why.
I didn't ask about justifications. I'm asking, was it good?
That was my argument initially.
It seems to me that you know that it's not good, and now you're trying to say, well, there must be a justification for it, right? What's the justification?
I'm not saying there must be. I'm saying that's the route that I take.
Obviously, you have
it
to.
could be
You're a
that.
Christian. You have to say that there's a justification.
I don't have to do anything. I can think for myself, dude.
No, you can't because you believe God is all good.
When did I say that? My initial argument was
You
that
literally
on the
started the
justification.
conversation. The first thing you said when I came in is I asked you about your view on God, whether he was all good, partially good, or you don't know, and you said he was all good.
Maybe, okay. Well, I'm gonna let it go there. I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna check if I really said that, because I'm almost positive I said depending on the justification.
You're welcome to correct
you go back?
yourself. Is God all good or not?
What do you mean? Wait, say that one more time. I'm sorry.
Is God all good or not?
Insofar as what I can tell, yeah, he has a justified, reason of being good. Yeah.
Okay, so everything God does is good, right?
I don't know everything, dude. I really don't.
Well, that's the position you're trying to debate right now. If you don't know if God is good, you can say I don't know.
I can only speak for the biblical narrative right now. I don't know every single act or why God allowed or didn't allow and whether it's good or bad. I don't know because I don't have that information.
Okay, so you don't know if God is good.
Insofar as what the Bible teaches, I do know that, but outside of that, I don't know.
So you don't have an opinion?
I'm saying I need to see a justification in order to properly give judgment on what is good or wrong.
What do you think the justification is?
We're both be speculating at that point. I wasn't there, dude.
I'm just sticking to what the book says.
But I told you I don't hold that view. You know what I mean? Maybe if someone else was like, I'm a Bible alone, and whatever the Bible says, word for word is exactly what I believe. But it's more complex than that.
I don't know if it is actually more complex than that. Our discussion is based on the articles of Christianity, the basic theology, whether you believe in Bible alone or Bible plus tradition, holds that God is necessarily good. To do anything that's not good would be against his divine nature.
Yeah, that's the classical position. But I told you from the beginning of this conversation, it's going to be a different route. I'm not going to go down the rabbit holes that you would typically go down. I'm saying I don't know the justifications. You don't. We can only talk for what the Bible teaches, and maybe we can speculate off that. But beyond that, I can't tell you. I don't know. Maybe I'm totally okay. Hand up, I'm totally okay with saying God could be wrong for all that he does, but I don't know. That's what I'm literally conceding with you.
Yeah. You think it's ever fair to punish somebody for making a mistake by having them eaten by lions?
Well, which situation are you talking about, Daniel?
No.
Which one?
I'm not going to tell you until you answer the question.
Well, I don't know. We're both speculating. What do you mean? Say that one more time?
Do you think there's a scenario in which somebody should be punished by having them eaten by lions if they become deceived by somebody else? So, for example, if I said, Yugi, I need you to go to the post office and retrieve my mail. Let's imagine you go to the post office and you get there and the post office guy is like, actually you're at the wrong post office, you need to go to the UPS store. And then you come back to me and you're like, listen, I ain't got your mail because the UPS guy, or the other guy there said that it's at the other office. And then I have you eaten by lions since you didn't retrieve my mail because you were deceived. Would that be a fair punishment?
I mean, in this limited scenario, wait, what's in the mail? You could just say just a general mail. You're saying that to someone or something?
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter?
Nope.
Okay. I'm just saying, if that mail was, let's say, the final code to solving something that's crucially important for the state of humanity. I'm not saying it would be right, but I'm saying I could understand why somebody would do that.
Okay. So if I sent you to get my mail and there was something really important in my mail, and you got to the post office, and the guy at the post office is like, hey, his mail's not actually here, and you left empty-handed, you'd be okay with being eaten by lions?
Just some general mail, you said?
Just some mail.
Or it's really important? It doesn't matter how important it is?
No, I mean, certainly it's important.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna need a little more than that, man. I can't just throw out an answer right there. Again, I would not.
Okay, there's a letter from the president in it. What now?
God fucking damn it!
You gotta give me more details, dude.
That's all there is. There's a letter from the president. I'm corresponding with the president. There's a correspondence from the president that's going to be in the mail. I need you to go retrieve it. And if you show up empty-handed, I'm going to have you eaten by lions. Do you think that's fair?
That happens all. I'm not saying I don't think it's fair, but I understand why people take it to that route. I get it.
So would it be good if I did?
Right. That's the. Would it be good? No, it's not good.
Oh, that wouldn't be good. Okay.
No, it's not a good thing that happened, but I understand why it happened.
No, would it be a good behavior? If I sick lions on you, would that be a good behavior?
No, that act in and of itself, there's nothing good about that. Yeah.
Okay, that would be bad. Would I be wrong for doing it?
That's going to be the debate. It depends on the totality of the circumstances. I need everything. You're just going to be vague. It's important. Okay.
So why does the totality of the circumstances have to do with whether or not my behavior is wrong because you've been tricked?
Okay, because that's how we handle almost any...
He's hedging so bad. He's hedging so bad for when we get to the Bible. He can't tell me anything until I read the Bible about it.
My guy, I'm right here. You can just talk to me normal. Look, you got it, man. If you think like I'm like crazy or something, or if I'm messed up, you could just say it. It's fine.
I don't think you're messed up. I think what you're doing is you're hedging, because you know I'm about to read you a Bible story that sounds vaguely similar to the narrative that we just laid out.
I got you, but what do you mean by hedging? I don't know what that means. What is that?
Hedging is when you're laying down a preservatory bet for the future. So like airplane companies practice hedging. When the price of fuel dips, they'll buy huge quantities of fuel to hedge against the rising price of fuel for when it goes back up.
Okay, can I tell you why you're wrong about that? Because apparently you can read my mind. That's not what I'm doing. Can I tell you what I'm actually doing instead of just assuming?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So the reason why I'm asking for the totality of the circumstances is because that's how we literally judge people in court. I would appreciate it. Just like you, if you were a juror, would you not want to know everything before you sentence someone to life in prison?
Okay, then
so don't say I'm happy.
What circumstantial details do you need to know before you can judge it?
All of it. Whatever it is. All of it. I need all of it.
I just told you.
Down to the little, to the top.
Yeah, I just told you. I sent you to the post office. You got deceived by somebody at the post office, and you come back empty-handed. I'm mad that you're empty-handed, and I have you fed to lions.
Okay. And you said it was a message from the president, which you didn't want to tell me what it was.
Why would I tell you? It's internal correspondence.
Okay, so that's why I told you the act of having someone get eaten by lions is bad, but I don't know enough to know if it's absolutely bad because you just gave me vague details. I don't know.
What would make it good?
There could be a lot of circumstances.
Like what? Name one.
Okay. The act of being eaten by a lion isn't good, okay? But if this person, for whatever reason or another, you know what I mean, is negligent in doing it and it costs the lives of everyone, again,
I didn't say negligent. You added that. I didn't say anything about negligent.
Okay, but you just asked me what would make it bad. You don't gaslight me.
I said
you asked me how would it make it bad.
No, within the parameters I gave you. The parameters I gave you is that you're deceived.
When the parameter's nothing. But I'm saying you asked me.
The parameter is everything. I gave you the parameters of the analogy. You can't throw away my parameters. The parameter of my analogy is that you are getting deceived by somebody at the post office. I didn't say anything about negligence.
But you asked me what would make it.
Within my analogy, obviously. I didn't ask you to make up within my analogy. You don't get to make up your own analogy. You have to play within the one we're already laying down.
Okay, if new details, let me be very clear. If outside of the parameters that you said, if new details came up at all, yes, it would probably change it. Then you asked me what would change it. I misunderstood. Okay. Within the parameters or a new scenario?
Within the parameters, you don't get to make your own scenario.
Nothing.
Okay, so there would be nothing, yeah, because you didn't act out of maliciousness, did you?
Because I was deceived?
Yeah.
Dude, look, okay, what do you mean by me? Like, in the scenario?
I don't know why words are so hard for you, Yugi. It's a very easy scenario. You go to the post office to pick up my package. The guy at the post office tells you that package is not here. You have to go to UPS. You've been deceived by the guy at the post office. He lied to you. He told you something that's untrue. You believed it. You were deceived. Because you were deceived, you show up empty-handed. I say, listen, I told you not to show up empty-handed. Now I gotta feed you to the lions.
Yeah, nothing about the scenario is good, dude. Nothing.
Right.
It all sucks.
Because you were deceived, weren't you? Right?
Okay.
No.
Because that was the seed. Yeah, you're wrong. I'm wrong. No, I'm not wrong, but I should have. Let's say I should have maybe investigated further. I'll say that. If you're a diligent person, you're going to make sure that. Are you really sure? What do you mean by that? I want you to go back and.
I'll never understand Christians justifying the most horrific actions on the planet, like being literally fed to the lions. This guy literally thinks human beings should be fed to lions if they get deceived while trying to fulfill a mission. It's crazy. Okay, so let's actually read the Bible passage.
Oh, you got it.
I'm going to read the Bible passage that you've been hedging for. So, there was an old prophet in Bethel. One of his sons came and told him all that the man of God had done that day in... Oh, he left. They are so terrified of the Bible. Like, they are so afraid to read this thing. Oh, well. 2 Kings 13. I'm sorry, 1 Kings 13 is where you can find the story. Yeah, I would have ran too. I wouldn't read the Bible. Oh well. Dalton, thank you for the $5 super chat. It says, oh, my show is on. I think you super chatted twice, but thank you, my friend. And Gaius Husky says, I can't understand grape in the Bible because of my limited knowledge equals self-gaslighting and excuses for evil. My moral ground, grape is wrong. Does God have a problem? Yeah, I would imagine so. Christianity has a huge problem. Huge problem. And Hammond says, Guy says you have feminine energy, but is emotional. At a thing he probably thinks is feminine, but is emotional. A thing that he probably thinks is feminine. Couldn't agree more. That first guy was really up in his fifties. Not a really masculine trait, but I would argue that real men do have emotions. Angry Malachite Infant says Galatians 2:11. Paul rebukes Peter for being Jew to the Jews, Gentiles to the Gentiles. He even calls Peter a hypocrite. Porphyry noticed this problem in the 2nd century hat tip. Thank you, Mindship. I appreciate that. Yeah, so like, if you want to read early disputes against Christianity that are good, you want to read Julian, you want to read Celsus, and you want to read Porphyry. Those are 3 really good early accounts. The other thing is I would add in Trypho. Trypho has a dialogue against the Christians that are recorded in Justin Martyr's writing. You can probably find a reconstruction of just Trypho's portions. Acme Hero, great to see you, friend. Thank you for the super chat. Says, not sure deconstruction is enough. These beliefs are harmful to humanity. They should be shunned into non-existence. Genocide is bad. Okay. I know. And we literally just demonstrated why it's so dangerous. Because people will literally get up here and justify being cannibalized and fed to lions. Crazy. And remember, God is punishing these people because they won't worship Him. God's standard of justice is you must be abased and worship me, or I'll terrorize you. Meg says, leaving Mormonism makes me feel cynical about being forced into being a stay-at-home mom, but Justin's love of babies makes me remember it wasn't all bad. Thank you, Meg, and I fucking love babies. Like, I'm the guy, like, if I go to someone's house and there's a baby, I want to hold the baby. Guys, go get a drink. Have some dinner. I got it. Give me the baby. I want to hold the baby. Babies are the best. Babies, puppies, kittens. They're just the best. Hammond says, on what authority do Protestants say that the canon is 66 books? They don't really have a good authority. That's just the facts of the matter. But it is what it is. What are you going to do? We could have that as a debate topic once. Maybe we should. Eric, thank you for the $20 super chat. Has been an atheist for a year, just recently stumbled onto your channel, and I must say, you are incredible. I love how you use the Bible to destroy Christians and common sense to hold others to the ridiculous beliefs. Stay rock hard, bird dog, and also stay... Let me get it right. Sinfully wet for Sharon. Absolutely. Hey, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. And Git says, if God's will encompasses all action of what humans do, then it's not evil or wrong in any consequences of said action. For instance, rape is not wrong if it falls in His will. I mean, that's from the theistic point of view, but then you would still have to justify why I would conclude that just because He's God, His will is good. That's something you're assuming about the God. That's not something you can prove about the God. The God could just be an asshole, and you're easily deceived. You know what I mean? Also, David says, New Testament, Ananias and Sapphira lied to Peter, and the Holy Spirit died. and the Holy Spirit and then died. Same God. He tells you the consequences. People just trust him constantly. I know. The story of Peter basically executing Ananias and Sapphira for not donating all their money is a wild one. Rationalist Muscle, thank you for the $20 super tip, says, Justin, I dislike this show and I'll never let my youngins watch it. But because I'm a believer, that really means I adore this show and I make them watch, or I'll torch them because I love them. Hell, Doug, brother. This is right out of Yahweh's mouth. This is exactly something he would do. Thank you for that. And Gaius Husky coming in again says, Christianity is bad for society. HRT, abortion bans in, I don't know what MS equals, infant deaths because doctors are scared to work with Christians, makes kids in Philippines give birth, causing poverty. Christian tyrants in Russia, Africa, and Hungary. Christian ATKs, science education, and free speech. Couldn't agree more. Christianity is holding back society. And Just Rancher says, do $2 YouTube super chats get read? Seemed not the other day. Also, do you have any thoughts on Tim Mackey Bible Project in terms of quality and accuracy? I like the Bible Project. I've heard him say some things that I disagree with, but in general, it's pretty good. The $2 super chats, like anything below like $4.99, I kind of save to the end of the live stream because I get so many super chats that like I have to prioritize them somewhere. So like if it's super relevant to the discussion or you paid like a certain amount for it, I'm gonna put that at like the front of the super chat line. But like unfortunately, like I have to have some kind of system of prioritization because of all of the super chats that come in, and that's kind of the system I decided on. I figure like if somebody's willing to pay 10, 15, 20 bucks for a super chat, that kind of puts them to the front. Because nobody wants to put 20 bucks down on a super chat and then not hear it read. It's just one of those things. So that's kind of how I've developed my system. I know other channels like The Line, super chats $10 and over, they don't even read $10 or $9.99 and under. Like everybody has this system. I'm still kind of working on my system. You're welcome to give me feedback if you don't like it. Cahoto says, long drive tomorrow, brother. I look forward to getting some pretzels. Well, you are going to get some pretzels, actually. You're going to get some. They're coming up. And the ungoogleable man says, a priest, a rabbi, a blonde, a lawyer, 3 clowns, a horse, a policeman, and Richard Nixon all walk into a bar. Bartender looks around and says, what's this, some kind of joke? I mean, I think so. I think that's the most apparent joke that I can think of. I got 2 more super chats. Mitch Murray, thank you for the $100 super chat. Big W, Mitch. I really appreciate that. That's huge. Thank you for supporting the channel. Mitch says, you are the dog's bullocks, Justin. Look it up if you're not familiar with the expression. I think it's similar to like the cat's meow. I hope it's a good thing. Or like the bee's knees. I'll have to look up the dog's bullocks. But thank you for that, Mitch. I really appreciate that. That's really huge. And last one from our friend Josh. Joshua, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. Josh says, big congrats. I hope you grow big and appreciate the thought in taking the Bible serious leads to the absurd. I couldn't agree more. Taking the Bible seriously will lead you to holding absurd ideas. All right, let's grab our next guest. I promised that a Trove would be next. So let me grab Trove from our YouTube queue. Trove, are you still with us? Trove? Maybe? Trove, I see your microphone and your camera are turned off. May or may not still be with us. Let me see if you... I mean, it shows you got Bluetooth headphones in, so I assume you can hear me. If you got Bluetooth headphones in, I don't know why you're not here. Alright, well, I'll drop you down. Come back if you want to get up into the conversation. You know, welcome anytime. I think patristic was next, so let's grab the true patristic path.
What up, brother? How's it going?
Good, how you doing, patristic?
Very well.
Well, patristic, are you Orthodox or Catholic?
Orthodox.
Cool. And are you at least 18?
Yes, sir.
Cool. And do you believe... What's that?
Love the show. I said a pleasure to speak to you, by the way. I love the show. It's actually quite entertaining.
Thanks, I appreciate that. Do you believe that God is all mostly good, maximally good, partially good,
Oh, yeah.
or you don't
I
know?
believe he's good. Yes, sir. I believe he's all good.
Okay. And do you believe then that all of what he does is good?
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing bad he could do.
Shoot forward.
There's nothing bad he could do then.
Definitionally, no, because that would be contradictory to his nature, which is good.
Why would I accept that his nature entails goodness?
I'm saying obviously from my perspective. If you want me to argue that, I guess we could, but I was just listening to you and explaining my perspective, brother.
No, I agree. That's why I was saying, like, I know from the Christian perspective.
So you want me to argue it?
Yeah, because first of all, you're Orthodox, which means I already know that you are into philosophy. Because, like, Orthodox.
No philosophy will be used in the making of this video, I promise.
Okay. So,
I've done that before, and then Big Daddy Ian got called, and I got my PP slapped. Oh, I probably should say that on live, so I will not do it again.
So, I mean, the question I would have then is, if you're me, like if you're in my position, or really anyone's position, why do we think that we should or need to accept the idea that God is necessarily good? Because it seems like God could just desire to do bad things, and we just have to accept that as well, right?
That is logically consistent, like when you're just arguing it logically. However, again, it would be contradictory to his nature from the Christian paradigm. So we would posit that it is impossible for him to be evil for that purpose, because it's contrary to his nature. He cannot be contradictory because he is not composite. He is not made of multiple things, so to speak.
Well, no, that is the Christian doctrine. I agree with you. According to Christianity, God's nature is good. I'm actually, what I'm doing is I'm pushing on that specific doctrine, and I'm asking, I know, like, Christianity teaches that, but why should one accept that? For example,
like, what's the argument for it?
Yeah, because, like, the Greek gods, right? So, the Greek gods, or, like, the Egyptian gods, or even the Ugaritic gods, there were some gods that were good, and then there were some gods that were bad. It's not entirely clear to me that just because you're a god, you have to be good. I'm not sure why that's the case.
Right. Well, the reason why is obviously ultimately going to come down to divine revelation. Now, the arguments therein would be essentially the way that he is the God of, for example, he says multiple times, the widow, the weak, the innocent, the poor, so on and so forth. So that's why, from our perspective, we would say that he is a good God. Again, that's purely from the humanistic perspective, looking at his, let's say, doings in the world, his actions in the world. We could see that he is the God of basically the weak. He's the God of people who need help.
Okay, so the goodness of God, it rests on, like, an evidentiary foundation?
I don't believe so, but again, I'm not going to debate, like, because again, this would have to be a super internal system, which if I start bringing up St. John Damascus, you're probably not going to know half of it, which is fine, because you think it's gibberish anyways. Yeah, so it's pointless for me to bring that up.
Fair enough.
So I'm saying I'm trying to talk about the biblical worldview, because it seems like that's what you're most familiar with, so I'm trying to be, like, obviously, if you start talking about, evolutionary biology, I'm going to be in a disadvantage also, so I'm trying to say something that we can both have a conversation with. Ultimately, it is a show,
Yeah, first of all, I mean, I think that's a very charitable position to be in. So, like, big W for that. I think there's a lot of people who really know philosophy that want to come up here and just use a bunch of big words that nobody knows so they sound smart. And that really doesn't move the conversation forward. Like, even, like,
I agree.
Like, most philosophical conversations I can follow until you start using the insider jargon, and then, like, why? Why am I doing this, right?
I agree. Yeah, no, we're on the same page, brother.
Okay, so
I just want to talk about the issue at hand, like, particularly the morality within the Old Testament, particularly.
Yeah. So if I asked you then, according to the Bible, would a good God take delight in harming or destroying wicked people?
Yes, he would.
He would take delight in that.
He would, yeah, right. So, like, there's multiple forms of justice. From the Western view, we have social justice, which is only like a really recent thing, but it always has existed, of course. We have retributive justice, which is where, you know, a punishment is made according to the action. And then we have, we have punitive justice, which is what I just described. And then we have retributive justice, which is where we're replenishing what has been stolen. So that is the three frameworks of justice we view from. For God, justice in the Hebrew in the Old Testament, it's mitzvah. I can't pronounce it in Hebrew, but
mitzvah.
It's like yes, there you go. Thank you, I appreciate that. So that form of justice, as also described in other ancient Near Eastern traditions, such as the ancient Egyptians, is putting things back in their proper place. So to put things back in their proper place is God's justice. This is divine justice. So if that requires a destruction of an evil person, that is totally and completely in line with good. And even, I would argue, we still do this today through forms like, for example, the death penalty. I think 99% of atheists would agree that if the tiny mustache man was alive, he should be put to unalivement, for an example. However, that's just one small example of what's going on in the Old Testament tradition for morality.
There's a couple words, so like a mitzvah would be like a command from God, or a command, right?
Yes, it also means that. Yep.
Right. And
it means like a judgment also. Yep.
Right. And then there's let me see if I can remember. Mishpat, similar to.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
That's what I'm speaking of, which is again the frame of justice that is exegeted in the Old Testament.
It also kind of entails fairness. Right?
Yeah, absolutely, which is again why certain things need to happen that from our view would be unjust, but in the view of God is completely and absolutely tenable to the position of him being good.
Right, okay. So I started on this conversation asking if God takes delight in destroying the wicked, and the reason why I asked that is because I had an assumption that you would know that Ezekiel 33, God says that I don't take any pleasure in the destruction of the wicked.
Again, all of the biblical texts need to be within the context, which I'm sure you've heard millions of times. But this Ezekiel 33, again, is probably laden within responsibility and accountability and all these other things. And then you would have to say God's role of justice and mercy. So maybe this text is saying this or that. Would you like to read it in particular so I can maybe exegete it a little bit better? Because I don't have the context of this. It's been a while since I've read Ezekiel.
Yeah, so in Ezekiel 33, the command is given, say to them, as I live, says the Lord God, I have no pleasure in the death of the wicked, but that the wicked turn from their ways and live. Turn back from your evil ways, for why will you die, O house of Israel? So it seems like what he's suggesting is like, I don't want to kill you. I don't want to bring destruction on you. I would prefer for you to turn from your ways, because I don't actually take any pleasure in having to destroy you.
Meaning, okay, so this is a great example of how we can further dissect what these words actually mean, because everything is theory-laden, right? So when I say pleasure, in the context of God takes pleasure in punishing people, meaning that he obviously wants things to go back in its proper orientation, its proper justice, right? And so if that requires the destruction of a person, so be it. However, like you just read, many times he warns before he punishes, like for example in Jonah, the Canaanite story, and so on and so forth. And then when I think the biblical example is when the cup of iniquity runneth over, so to speak, meaning his view on it becomes to its point where it's boiling over, so to speak, then he executes judgment. So he gave humanity many years to repent for an example, the way that they were living in Genesis. But yet they didn't, and so then he punished them. And in that scenario, he would take pleasure in it, not in the sense of euphoric, humanistic, anthropomorphizing pleasure. Again, we have to understand that God is outside of categories, but for the sake of speaking, we have to utilize these human categories to try to explain them a little bit better.
Sure. So Ezekiel 33 seems to be indicating that when God has to destroy people, he does it because he has to, not because he takes pleasure in it.
Again, God is not obligated to anything because God is the obligator. God is outside of categories. He's the transcendental one that holds all things together. So God doesn't have to punish people, but it is in his will that it is just to punish people. Again, it's not desired. It's not preferred. but it is necessary sometimes. And again, the punishment, and this is a really, really big point that I don't hear many Christians talk about, is that God's punishment of the wicked is mercy to the victims. Like, that's ultimately what's going on in the punishment. It's not just arbitrary, angry God, let me kill this guy. It's like, no, this guy has been raping and unaliving XYZ people, now he deserves punishment so the other future victims can receive mercy. That's what the Old Testament phrases it as multiple times.
Yeah, but does God take pleasure in bringing the wicked to ruin?
Again, yes, in context of already having had given them an opportunity to repent. And if they continue and persist in their sin, then yes, God takes pleasure in setting things back in its proper orientation, which is justice.
Okay, so Ezekiel's wrong?
Ezekiel's not wrong. You're having a very literalistic, Protestant-like fundamental reading of the text where clearly what he's trying to say here. I understand that's an easy way for us to say that, but again, you have to take this in context of being an ancient Near Eastern tradition, an ancient Near Eastern language that is not easily.
I have no idea why people just assume I don't know anything about the ancient Near East. I'll never
I'm not
understand
saying you don't know anything about it. I'm not saying, forgive me if that's how it came off. What I'm trying to say is you have to keep that in context, because if you, as you have understanding of many things, if you have understanding of the ancient or Eastern tradition, a lot of this isn't meant to be taken word for word, dogmatically, literally, in the sense that we do today. Which is a fundamental issue with the Protestants, ultimately. That's what you're
which word in this verse is literal and which one's not?
Again, it's not like there's a word that you can say this word in the Hebrew language is literal, and this word is an allegory. What we're saying is that within the context of the overarching narrative and the exegesis of the authorities who have procured, protected, and condensed these texts, right? These people have explained these texts to us in a way that is straightforward and easy to understand. I know it might be crazy for you because you see the words, he does not take pleasure in death there.
What do the church fathers say about this? What do they say about this passage?
For example, one of the top of my head I can think of is that, like St. Isaac the Syrian says that God is not the one who punishes evil for evil necessarily, but he sets evil aright. So that's the difference, is that he's not giving evil.
No, what's it say about this passage specifically? Does it say that God delights in the death of the wicked or not?
I don't, honestly, I haven't read Ezekiel 33 with the Church Fathers' perspective on it, but again, the Church Fathers' perspective is that the Bible is not contradictory, so therefore I'm exegeting.
This is boring. God fucking damn it. God fuck it.
To go to heaven, he said, I'm not ready for heaven yet. Finally I said, what do you want me to do? I want you to love the person that you're with. I said, okay, yeah, but then what do you want me to do after I do that? And he said, no, that's what I want you to do. And I said, I started at Northern Kentucky University in 1972. I was hired as an assistant professor, and I was offered a promotion to full professor at the age of 25. And I was also given tenure my third year. 7 students, myself and my wife, toured Amsterdam and then went up to Denmark, spent a few days there, went to Sweden for a day, and last week, it was a 3-week trip, and our last week was a week in Paris. It was an art tour, and it was pretty much all museums. On that Saturday morning, June 1st, 1985, I had the most acute pain I'd ever experienced in my life in the center of my abdomen, right there. It was terrifying because it just came from nowhere, and I never experienced such acute pain. I mean, this is like the kind of pain that blows the top of your head off. A doctor came very quickly, got me up off the floor with a great deal of difficulty because I couldn't move. He knew exactly what was wrong and told me that I had a perforation of the duodenum, which means I had a hole go through my small stomach. What was happening was the hydrochloric acid and the enzymes and the bacteria and everything are now migrating, leaking into my abdominal cavity. To put it in crude terms, I was digesting myself on the inside. Without exaggeration, what it felt like was fire. My wife riding alongside of me in the back, and as we traveled 70, 80 miles an hour through the streets of Paris to the big city hospital. They confirmed basically if I didn't have the surgery in an hour, I would die. So they sent me to the surgical hospital, and because it was the weekend, there was no doctor available, no surgeon available at the hospital they sent me to. So I was put in a room. I begged, I screamed, I yelled. And my wife begged and yelled and screamed.
Nurse, someone please come in here!
Sorry, we need a doctor to prescribe something. There I was for 10 hours. About once an hour, the nurse would come in and ask how I was doing, and I would tell her in French and in English that I was dying, and shrug their shoulders and walk away. I wasn't in fear, I was in terror, because I was 38 years old, very successful in my career at the university, wife and 2 kids, nice house, 2 cars. The thing that kept going through my mind is, this can't be happening, this can't be happening, this can't be happening. People ask me, how do you know you were dying? It's like the stupidest question in the world. When you're dying, you know it. With every breath. I felt like I had one more breath to go. Nurse came into the room at 8:30 that night and said they were sorry, but they were unable to locate a doctor, and they would try to find one the next day, which was Sunday. Well, when she said that, I was like, okay, it's over, it's done. I can't do this anymore. I'm exhausted. And I looked at her, and it was horrible to see her crying like that. And I closed my eyes and stopped trying to breathe, and I went unconscious. I was an atheist, and I knew that when you die, it's just over. It's like the big nothing, void, the end. I awoke from unconsciousness, standing there next to the bed, feeling better than I'd ever felt before in my life. My vision was greatly increased. Instead of seeing 160 degrees, I could see almost 360 degrees. My depth of field was total. When I looked at something close, everything far was in focus. Being an artist and being a visual person, that was the first thing. It's like, wow, I've never been able to see like this. Then I realized that I could hear, smell, taste, touch, everything. I could feel all the little nuances in the cold linoleum floor. I could hear the buzzing of the fluorescent lights in the ceiling really loudly. All of my senses were greatly, greatly enhanced. In the bed that I had been in was this big slab of meat. And when I looked at the face, it bore an amazing resemblance to me. And I could not understand how that could resemble me, but I was perfectly well standing there, perfectly alive, looking at this hunk of meat. The other thing that bothered me was that my wife would not respond to me. Well, at first I started talking in a nice voice, and I started yelling at her like, what the hell's going on here? Look at me, talk to me, I'm all better. What's that thing in the bed? How did it get there? I was very upset, very distressed. And then I heard people out in the hallway outside the well-lit room in the darkish gray, hazy hallway, and there was a group of people standing outside the light of the room in the hallway. I said, I'm sick, I need a doctor. And they said, we know all about you. It's time for you to come with us. So I thought that they were hospital personnel to take me to a doctor. When I left the room and went into the hall, I can't explain how I knew I couldn't go back into the room. The door didn't close, but I knew that it was impossible to go back into the light of the room. So I hesitated, and the people became very insistent. Hurry up, let's go, let's go. We can't wait anymore. You know, we've been here a long time waiting for you. Hurry up. So I gave in and went with them, and they immediately surrounded me and moved me forward into that grayness. As we moved along, I could not perceive walls, ceiling, any feature at all. And we walked and walked and walked, and after a while it's like, okay, this hospital's not that big, you know. I mean, we've walked miles now, and it's like, where's the stairs? Where's the up and down? Where's the walls? And there was nothing. We just walked and walked.
Oh my good goddamn.
So I was asking the people around me, like, this isn't the hospital, this isn't right, you know, where are we, stuff like that, and their response was, shut up, be quiet, keep moving, move, buzz! They'd say, you're gonna find out, you'll find out, you're gonna get there. There was a lot of people around us, possibly hundreds, I don't know. They were being very vulgar, very threatening, very scary. I'm in abject darkness. I have absolutely no idea which way, forward, backward. I mean, all I knew is I wanted to get away from them. They said, no, you've got further to go, and they started to push and shove me. And I fought back. I began by punching, shoving, kicking, started biting, scratching, and tearing me apart, literally. Disemboweling me, gouging my eyes. And it was all accompanied with a great deal of laughter and joy. I thought about my whole life, and everything seemed like, what was the point? Eyes. And it was all accompanied with a great deal of laughter and joy. Thought about my whole life, and everything seemed like, what was the point? And I realized that my relationship with my mother and father were a disaster. My relationship with my sisters wasn't good. My relationship with my wife was very troubled. I was not proud or pleased with my relationship with my two children. I sank into a pit of despair and hopelessness that I can't begin to describe. My mind offered up a memory of myself as a little boy going to a Sunday school singing Jesus Loves Me. When I was a little boy and I was afraid, like having nightmares at night or whatever, I would pray to him and he would chase the lions and tigers, the bears away. And as a child, it was like mostly in the image of like a superhero. Jesus was like a superhero. And so that's it. That was all I knew. So I called out to him. In complete desperation, a tiny little star appeared in the sky. And very rapidly it got brighter and brighter and brighter. And he spoke to me for the first time in his voice, but it was telepathic, but it wasn't a thought of mine. It was his voice in my head. And then he said, I've got some people that I want you to meet. They've recorded your life and they want to show you your life. So they proceeded to show me my life in chronological order. What I saw, to summarize it, was happy youth, pretty much, then going to adolescence, everything going sour, particularly with my relationship with my father. Because of my father's cruelty to me, I was cruel back. My father was physically and emotionally abusive every day to my mother, my sisters, and to me. I mean, it never stopped. The only way that I could deal with it was to try and not feel anything. And all he wanted from me was to be a little duplicate of him. You know, just be subservient to him. You know, being disobedient had immediate physical consequences of being kicked or punched or hit. And I saw myself striving to become emotionless and feelingless, which was a way for me to protect myself from being hurt. As I became more manipulative and successful, the more the angels and Jesus expressed their disappointment and sadness with me and my life. And it really hurt to disappoint them, because here I have these newfound friends, my big rescuer, you know, best friend I ever had. And I'm looking at my life and I'm a big, huge disappointment. And he should put me back. I don't belong here. You know, you've made a mistake. I don't belong here. And he said, we don't make mistakes. You do belong here. Finally, when we got through it, Jesus said, do you have any questions? And I said, I got a million questions. He said, what do you want to know? So I asked him everything that I could think of to know. And if we went through that, it would take us several years. And he gave me a whole new understanding of everything. I said, great. Now that I understand, I want to go to heaven. He said, I'm not ready for heaven yet. Finally, I said, what do you want me to do? I want you to love the person that you're with. I said, okay, yeah, but then what do you want me to do after I do that? And he said, no, that's what I want you to do. And I said, you know, what good's that going to do? And he said, it's going to change the world. And I said, that's going to change the world? I don't think so. No, I said, you don't understand, the world is like a terrible, cruel place. Even if I love someone, they're just going to go get beat up somewhere else, and they're not going to. And he said, no, if you love someone, they'll take that love out into the world, and maybe they'll love somebody, and it'll grow and grow and grow. I said, it's not going to work. And he said, it's God's plan.
You just opened up a can of fucking worms. I'll come back to this fucking video.
Man, it's gonna work. Well, when he pulls up the God's plan work, you know, I mean, it's like, what can you say? And so finally I conceded. I go to heaven. I said, okay, I'll go back. And with that, I'm not ready for heaven yet. I'm in the bed. Finally, I said, what do you want me to do? I want you to love the person that you're with. I said, the nurse okay, in the room. Yeah, but then what do you want me to do after I do that? I said, no, that's what I want you to do. Ready for surgery? You know, what good's that going to do? When I awoke, I knew that what had happened to me was the most important thing in my life. Because now my life had real meaning and purpose. I was very, very weak. I'd been in surgery for hours. I'd spent most of the morning trying to think of how I was going to tell my wife what had happened. I said to her, it's all love. She she said, I love you. And I said, I know you love me, but it's all love. And she said, what are you talking about? And I said, it's an ocean of love. And you have to just go into that ocean of love and be a part of it. And she said,
Try to get some rest.
here I am. I'm giving her the abbreviated wisdom of God. And she's basically telling me, you know, you're making no sense. It's crazy talk. From that day forward, I tried to tell people about God, heaven, hell, what I'd experienced, and nobody took me seriously at all. I was a zealot. I was a complete zealot, and it was not good for my relationship with them, because the more that they did not respect what I was trying to tell them, and the more they told me I was nuts and crazy and stuff like that, the more it totally alienated them from the Bible, from God, from me. I mean, it was completely counterproductive. It was a disaster. My wife left me. She poisoned the kids against me. They've rejected me. They don't want anything to do with me. They think I'm a crazy man. It's all gonna work out. I know that God works stuff out. It just doesn't happen on our time frame. I mean, I'd like it now, and it's not happening right now, but it could happen tomorrow. It might take a long time. I don't know. When I came back, one of the things I knew, I wanted to make friends with my dad. Not only was I able to forgive my father because I understood that he was just messed up because of his messed up childhood. Also, my father really wanted to do was to be loved, but he didn't know how to do that in appropriate ways, so he tried to be loved in inappropriate ways. He thought obedience and discipline. And my mother and my sisters were really angry with me because they all told me several times, you and Dad hated each other, and now you're his best friend. Why? I say, because he's my dad. Grace is passed along and passed along and passed along, and it's powerful. It's powerful because people change their lives for the good. They find hope, peace, love, joy, contentment, you know. And they also find God and eternal life.
Hello, many of you are familiar with my guest today, Howard Storm. If you haven't heard his incredible story of dying, going to hell, and being rescued, it is fascinating, and I'll have a link to that in the description. By the way, sometimes my guests, like Howard Storm, have religious experiences, and many times they don't. I want you to know I have no agenda. I simply want to have great guests that I trust. No agenda. And many times they don't. I want you to know I have no agenda. I simply want to have great guests that I trust and I believe are genuine. And I do believe that Howard Storm is very genuine in what he is sharing. Today, though, we are going to dig into some of the more controversial things that he has to say. And here's just a small taste. But one thing that, when you were on the last time, that I had a lot of comments on and what people had a hard time grasping was that when you were talking to Jesus, he said that the best religion is one that brings you closest to God.
Yes. Well, because Jesus, being a respecter of our person, fully understands that we are all very much shaped by our culture.
This is Beyond with Heather Tesh, where we examine near-death experiences and life itself, hopefully making this life a little better. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. Once again today, my guest is Howard Storm. Hello, Howard.
Hello, Heather.
God,
it is great to have you. I've had you on before, and people absolutely love hearing from you. Now, since then, people have been a little concerned about your health. I know when you were last on, you were having surgery, and how is your health doing?
One catastrophe after another.
Oh. And there's Joy, your wife is in the background here.
Yep.
Sorry, I just brought a cup of coffee, Heather.
Thank you so much, Joy. Well, I know a lot of people are praying for you, Howard, and
thank you.
It's wonderful that you are here with us today. I was just saying how much people have enjoyed listening to you, but you kind of have the distinction too, that you irritate both non-Christians and Christians alike with some of your messages.
I love it.
You just wrote a new book, and it's called Following Jesus. And I was curious, why did you write this particular book? You already have your My Descent into Death, which is extremely popular. You have other books as well.
Yes.
So why write this one?
I pastored churches for 30 years. And anyone that has been part of a church, I think will agree with me that the churches are composed of some saintly people. And God bless them, because they're wonderful. You kind of have to find them out, because the last thing they're going to do is promote themselves. Then, the next category of people, and I'm speaking, of course, in gross generalities, are people that are on their spiritual journey at different levels, some more advanced, some less advanced, but they're all genuinely seeking God. And then the last category, which hopefully are few, but they do exist, that there are some people who have a lot of very serious issues with God, and they are, for lack of a better term, the strife creators. They are the most self-righteous and outspoken people about what wonderful Christians they are. But they are hypocrites, and how much they are deceiving themselves, I don't know, because I'm not their psychoanalyst, but they're certainly pretty good at deceiving a lot of people into thinking that all the things that they do to create strife in the church, they're doing under the command of God. So those are why I wrote the book. I tried in this book as plainly and as simply as possible to
fucking Christ
speak to what I believe, to the best of my understanding, is how to build and grow in a relationship with God. I wanted to communicate with people on any level. So the book is not an academic book. It's not written in any kind of language that anyone couldn't understand. I studiously avoided things that I thought might be difficult for people to comprehend. Academic theological talk is what I'm talking about, which is almost like talking Greek to people. And I believe that this book will talk to Christians. Sadly, to people that are anti-Christian, they probably wouldn't get past the first couple pages, throw the book in the trash. So the book is not, I'm not trying to evangelize unbelievers. I'm speaking to people who are on the spiritual journey, who want to grow in that journey.
I also think that, you know, here in my show, I like to discuss various topics. And you're right, sometimes people say, oh, I'm turning this one off because I don't agree with it. And I hope people are open to having conversations. And somewhere along the line, it seems like with both religion and politics, we suddenly think that if somebody doesn't agree with us, that, you know, you can't listen to them. And the truth is that somebody can believe differently, whether it's religion or politics, and they can still be a good person. And so I really appreciate conversations where we can talk about various things.
Yeah, like I listen to people that I don't agree with. Like, for example, recently I listened to an 8-hour audio book from a retired Catholic bishop. And I got a lot out of it. I liked the man very much. I respect him. He said things that I don't agree with. So what? So what? You know, I understand where he's coming from as a Catholic bishop. I'm coming from a somewhat different place. And rational, good people can respect other people's opinions. I hope when people look at my book and read my book, they will find things. I hope they will find things they don't agree with. And they can, you know, think about what it is I'm trying to promote and why they find it offensive. You know, they may be right and I may be wrong. You know, I am an educated, seminary-trained pastor, but that does not make me flawless in the authority on all things, okay? I'm a flawed human being like everybody else. I fully expect people to get what they can get out of it, pass over the things that they don't agree with. That is what real, mature, decent relationships are about. You know, Heather, I have a lot of good friends, and Heather, I don't want to shock you, but none of them are perfect. And guess what? If you asked any one of my friends, including my wife, they will tell you, oh, he definitely has his faults. Do you want me to put my wife on? Because she can spend the next hour telling you all the things that are wrong with me.
That's okay. Yeah. We'll trust you.
Yeah.
Well, and you know, you even say that in the introduction to your book, which I really appreciated. You said, read everything critically, question things you don't understand. And I appreciate that because when I grew up, I always felt like I couldn't ask questions about my faith because if I did, it showed a lack of faith. Yeah. But then I just didn't know the answers. Yeah. And I actually now see that asking questions is more of an act of faith because it shows that we are seeking and wanting to know the answers.
Yeah. You know, when I went to seminary, one of the things that I really appreciate, I went to a Methodist seminary, by the way. was the teachers all the time would ask students what they thought about what the teacher just said. And of course, the people that she called upon, and those that were the ones that were vigorously raising their hands, call me, were the ones that disagreed with the teacher. And the teacher would say something to the effect, tell me why you think that. And when the student would elaborate on why they objected, had a different opinion than the teacher would typically answer, well, that was well said. Thank you very much. End of story. What a wonderful environment the teachers created in terms of people questioning, and having the right to express different thoughts and opinions.
And in fact, in your book, you say humans are incapable of understanding God. And so I would think that even though we can't grasp all of what God is, at least if we ask questions, we are trying to understand.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I learned in seminary that I have come to believe is absolutely true. God is a mystery beyond human comprehension, way beyond human comprehension. But, and here's a great big but, all caps, bold print, but God knows that about our limited ability to comprehend, and God has sent prophets and teachers, and the biggie is he sent God's Son, Jesus Christ, not just to teach, which he did, but also to show and to live how much God's love is for us and how God wants us to love God and love one another. And Jesus did that, teaching, healing, showing, living, suffering, self-sacrifice, dying, and resurrection to the fullest, to a point where it's almost unbelievable. And I think part of the reason why a lot of people are afraid, literally afraid of having a relationship with Jesus is because his life of goodness and love was so extreme that it's threatening. I mean, to be perfectly frank, when I'm reading the Sermon on the Mount, which is Matthew chapter 5 through 7, which I think is really the whole core of Jesus's teaching to us, there are things that I stumble upon, and Jesus knows this, so I'm not confessing anything that he doesn't already know. I'm saying to Jesus, seriously? Are you kidding? Nobody can do that. What are you talking about? That's way too hard for us humans to do. And, an obvious example is love your enemies. Heather, how hard is it to love our enemies? I'm working on it, baby. I'm working on it, but I have not, fully loved my enemies.
Well, one thing you say in your book, which I appreciated, is you said, if we try to make the right choices, we will go to heaven and live in bliss forever. Now, you didn't say if we make the right choices.
Yes.
You say if we try to make the right choices. And I found that really interesting.
Yeah, that comes directly from my conversations with Jesus in 1985 and my subsequent experiences with him. One of the things that I told Jesus was, you can, and I'm giving you a verbatim of what I said to him. I said, you can't send me back to the earth. The earth is full of evil, cruel, horrible people, and why would you want to send me there? And he said, that is true, but the world is also full of good, beautiful, and loving people. And he said that what is in your heart is what you will find. And you know what?
God damn it.
That Jesus spoke the truth. And my near-death experience was in 85, almost 40 years ago today. And that's been my experience. If my heart is seeking love, Heather, I find good and loving people. And I also know that prior to my near-death experience, when I sought people like me, which was self-centered, egotistical, atheist people, that's what I found. That's one point that I want to make. In more conversation with Jesus, I said, but if you send me back to the world, I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do things that I'm going to regret. And Jesus' response, quote, I know, I understand, I know you. He said, when you make a mistake, when you do things that you regret, bring them to me. Tell me, because I want to hear from your lips what it is you regret. Tell me how you're going to change that, how you're going to behave differently, or try to behave differently in the future, and ask me to forgive you, and you will be forgiven, and what we forgive is erased. It's gone. God keeps no memory of the things that we ask to be forgiven for. Now, that is a deal unlike any deal you're going to get in this world. You know, I mean, you can't get anybody in this world to forgive a financial debt. I mean, the best you can hope for is they're going to give you some kind of plan on how to pay it back in increments over time, right? God lets it go. It's gone. It's the best deal in the universe. And that's why Jesus told me that he knew I would make mistakes. He knew that I would do sins and regret them. And he told me how to get rid of them. And just to complete this thought, his self-sacrifice on the cross, called the atonement, was him taking upon himself the sin of the and suffering and dying for this, because with that he defeated the power of death and the power of our fear of death, and he defeated the plans of the evil one to turn us away from God with those fears.
To kind of elaborate on that, correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people hear various near-death experiences, and some people like you have encounters with Jesus. Many people do. Other people don't. And so they do get confused. And in my mind, I think it's okay to reach out to God, to call out to Jesus and say, I don't totally know who you are. Just guide me to know you better. Is that correct?
Oh, absolutely correct. And to go back to what you initially said, you know, one of the things that I've discovered, and people that have researched and studied near-death experiences, is that everybody's experience is unique. Why is it unique? Because God, our Heavenly Father, Mother, knows us really well and loves us each individually in our own uniqueness. So the gift of the near-death experience, which I think is an incredible gift, is perfectly suited for that person where they're at. But the interesting thing about people that have had genuine near-death experiences, and there are a few fakers out there, but the people that have had genuine ones all agree that it's all about love. God is love, and our loving God and loving one another is what we are to be doing in this world. We all NDEers that I've ever met that I respect all agree on all this stuff.
Yes, love is always the common denominator when it comes to near-death experiences. I really like that you were telling us that we don't have to have it exactly right. And I think, we can just look around and there are something like 45,000 different Christian denominations. Yeah, so clearly even Christians, even Christians don't believe the same thing. But one thing that, when you were on the last time, that I had a lot of comments on and what people had a hard time grasping was that when you were talking to Jesus, he said that the best religion is one that brings you closest to God.
Yes.
So why does it make sense that Jesus would say that?
Well, because Jesus, being a respecter of our person, fully understands that we are all very much shaped by our culture. For example, I was raised in a very liberal, extremely liberal Protestant denomination in a suburb of Boston, Massachusetts. My pastor was Harvard Divinity School graduate, liberal to the extreme. And, other people were raised in very, very strict Catholic homes where the only true religion was Catholicism and that it was a mortal sin for them to go to a Protestant church and blah, 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 blah. That was their cultural background. Jesus gets it. So when he says the one that brings you closest to God, that is because he respects our heritages, our upbringing. But this is not a contradiction that I'm about to introduce. Jesus also knows that there's only one church, and that would be any Christian church. I'm including one church as all churches, despite the fact that so many churches claim to be the only true church, which is completely false. Anyhow, because hopefully what people are learning in whatever kind of church they're going to, whether they're Baptist, Presbyterian, Universalist, Catholic, Orthodox, etc., etc., the important thing is that they're learning much truth about God and much truth about Jesus Christ, and hopefully are respecting the Bible and the wisdom and inspiration that it contains.
It seems like, from what you've said, that Jesus realizes not everybody is going to be born with their culture, grow up with the Bible, and so that people can be Islamic or Jewish or Buddhist, and they can still live what he would call a Christ-centered life.
Absolutely. In theology, there's a term called the anonymous Christ. And what that means in common English, there are people that know the Spirit of Christ who have never heard of Jesus Christ and never read the Bible. How can that be? Let me give you a biblical response to that. How can it be? Jesus, this is in the Bible, Jesus was approached by a scribe who asked Jesus, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And Jesus responded, "Love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. The second commandment is much like the first." That's what the Bible says. Now, I have met and I have read about people who belong to other religions, who, to the best of my understanding of them, are doing exactly what Jesus said. And there is no way that God is going to reject these people from heaven.
I appreciate that because I think for many Christians, one of their struggles is they see other people that they love and they believe are wonderful, good-hearted people seeking God, but they may believe differently than they do.
And I have definitely had that experience.
Howard, I have so many more questions for you, and I want to get into some of the topics that you shared in your newest book, Following Jesus. But if it's okay with you, let's go ahead and take that into part 2. So now you know why Howard gets a lot of grief. He is too religious for some, and he doesn't toe the party line for others. And he'll probably get more grief by answering some of the questions that are coming up in the next episodes. And what do you mean that we partake in the creation of worlds? The thing that I've always had a hard time believing is that God would allow eternal suffering. And so I was intrigued by something you wrote.
I just did, you're right.
And you said,
cutting off your right ear.
He loves those who do not go to heaven, and he has plans for them also. Can you describe some of the things that you saw?
Well, yeah, I can, but this might suspend my credibility among some of the listeners because it's so amazing.
I am always up to hearing those amazing things.
God damn it.
I would love to hear your comments on what we've talked about so far. In part 1, we covered so many things. So just share your thoughts in the comments. If you prefer just to say you made it, that is great as well. I'd love it if you give it a like. And if you haven't subscribed and you like this channel, please do that. Also, share this with a friend if you know someone who may like this. And if you're ever looking for more episodes, you can always find those in my playlist, and that link is always in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here again today. I so appreciate it, and I hope I'll see you in the next episode with Howard Storm. Thanks for joining me on Beyond with Heather Tesh. Please add comments and questions you'd like future guests to answer. Also, if you liked what you heard, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe. That'll help keep this podcast going. You can also go to Beyond with Heather Tesh to look for more episodes.
God damn it. Clusterfuck. Goddamn clusterfuck. God fucking damn it. Goddamn clusterfuck.
Does hell exist? This is Britt Hartley, Atheist Spiritual Director with a Master's Degree in Theology, and today I want to talk about whether or not hell is real, why humans create hells, and why I would rather go to hell than heaven. But before we go into all of that, let's talk about why humans create hells in our mythologies and religions. Because even if you believe that one of the hells of one of the religions is real, then you at least have to believe that all the other religions and mythologies and their hells are misinformed. So why do humans do this? Why do we create hells in our religions and mythologies? So first, let's just do a case study on Christianity. We're going to explore some other hells too, but I've studied the progression of hell in Christianity the most, and it's most pertinent to an American audience where I'm told that I'm going to hell every damn day of my life. So the progression of hell is a long and complicated story, but I'm going to do this in just a few minutes, so stay with me. In the Old Testament, we don't have moral distinctions in the afterlife. The most common term for the afterlife in the Old Testament is Sheol, a shadowy subterranean place where the dead reside. And Sheol is often depicted as a place of inactivity and darkness where the dead are cut off from both the living and God. And the text suggests that Sheol is not a place of punishment or reward, but just kind of a holding area for all the dead regardless of their moral standing. So in Psalm 6:5 we get, "For in death there is no remembrance of you, in Sheol who can give you praise." In Ecclesiastes 9 we get, "Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with all your might, for in the realm of the dead where you are going there is neither working nor planning nor knowledge nor wisdom." So there's not a lot happening in the afterlife because the Hebrew Bible is really focused on this world. Most blessings or curses are tied to this life on earth, such as long life and fertility or material prosperity. Even with Job, it's not that Job loses everything in his family, but he's blessed in the next life. He's blessed in this life for his faith and righteousness when God and Satan are playing their little game with him. So before the kingdom of Judah was conquered by the Babylonians and Jerusalem and the temple were destroyed, the covenants with God were about this life, the land that they are on. This is the God of this area and the blessings that come to us in this area and this life because of our covenants. But that theology changes when they are conquered and many Israelites are taken into Babylon in the 6th century BCE. So the destruction of the temple and the loss of the land really created this theological crisis because it didn't work. Their God didn't protect them. They weren't being rewarded in this life. It was a defeat of their God and God's chosen people by other gods. So where was God's justice if the righteous suffered so much? So it's possible, again, these are theories of trying to connect the dots with the little historical fragments we have, but it's possible that while under Persian rule, some Zoroastrian ideas began to be infused into the theology because Zoroastrians, it's such a hard word to say, taught that after death, souls would be judged, and there's like a bodily resurrection, and the righteous would be rewarded, and the wicked would face judgment. And so we start to see, because of theological issues and the fact that their God lost and they were destroyed, and we have all these other influences in the area, we then see in the book of Daniel new emerging resurrection themes. Like in Daniel 12 where it says, "Multitudes who sleep in the dust of the earth will awake, some to everlasting life, others to shame and everlasting contempt." And that's our clearest scripture on this emerging theory. And so this is when I laugh when people say, like, God has stayed the same and there's always been heaven and hell. No, there hasn't. God changes drastically from a pantheon of gods towards monotheism. And hell is developed over time as a way to deal with this issue that God lost. So their covenant rewards weren't coming in this life. So then, God then must reward us in the next life and punish our occupiers and our enemies in the next life too. And so there's this shift away from national salvation and political power to individual salvation, because national salvation essentially failed. God lost to the other gods. So now that doesn't mean that this is a consensus even at the time. By the time we get to Jesus, there are varying opinions on what hell is. The Pharisees were more likely to embrace resurrection and judgment. The Sadducees were more conservative and didn't, get into developing strong afterlife themes. And so what annoys me at all hell, pun intended, is when not only people have the audacity to tell me that I'm going to hell, but they also point to one scripture and see, look, there it is, clear as day, when really the New Testament is very much a conversation between conflicting views of the afterlife in the context of being ruled by the Romans and being an occupied people, wanting justice and even revenge. So the conversation around hell isn't just a theological conversation, it's also political, based on being an occupied people.
You must understand this, Osama. I believe in the past of my people and in their future. You want to conquer people. You may conquer the land. You may slaughter the people. That is not the end. We will rise again.
You live on dead dreams. You live on the myths of the past. The glory of Solomon is gone. Do you think it will return? Joshua will not rise again to save you, nor David. There is only one reality in the world today. Look to the west, Judah. Don't be a fool, look to Rome!
So we have the
God damn
Pharisees
it.
saying there is resurrection and judgment and vindication for the righteous in the world to come. And then there's the Sadducees that say there's no resurrection, no afterlife, there's just Sheol, no reward, no punishment, and God's covenants work only in this life. And then there's the Essenes, which talk about this cosmic battle between good and evil, and the righteous get eternal life, and the wicked are punished, and we need to prepare for this divine intervention. Then there's Hades, which is this Greek concept similar to Sheol, where the dead are in this like temporary state, which talk about this
Clusterfuck. 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 Cluster God fuck. Clusterfuck. 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 Cluster God fuck. Clusterfuck. Clusterfuck. Cluster God fuck. Clusterfuck. Clusterfuck.